I nodded.
We're live.
Hello,
See?
everyone.
That's how quick it was.
Welcome to Roll for Combat Live.
Woohoo!
I'll let you go, Mark. You can do the whole thing.
Okay, sure. I mean, we have guests on here, but it sounds like Steven says I'm going to be doing the whole thing, so they're just going to have to like sit
Introduce
tight.
them.
So
you do
we're
all that.
talking
We're just
about
there, watch your pretty face, Mark. It's great.
we're talking about how to play a Pokemon style campaign in Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder Second Edition. I mean, whatever you want to play it in. And the way you're going to do that is with Battlezoo Aldemon.
That's right.
So
And
true.
why do we have these special guests with us today who have never been on the show before? And who are these special guests? And why are they here? And why are they
That's a
sitting
good
so
question.
close
Why don't
to
we
each
let
other?
them introduce themselves instead of literally having me do everything?
I was gonna have
because
them do
people
that.
in chat said, please no.
Please no.
Wow.
Well, special being the key word. I'm Dan.
I'm Jacob.
We're from Avenue Studios. We do actual plays, and we are starting an Aldemon campaign. Session 1 is tomorrow night, actually, 9 p.m. Eastern. So we are headlong into it. I got Lotus Neck with me and everything.
I've loved the Aldemon Bestiary, Battlezoo Bestiary from the beginning. So I'm so pumped about this too. And who doesn't love Pokemon?
That's right.
In fairness, one of the players is doing Digimon. So we're going to have both. And I promised him I'd tell you guys that.
I think that's fine. Like,
Absolutely.
honestly, the mechanics of Aldemon are in some ways more similar to Digimon in the sense that this is the same creature that can go through multiple different forms.
Yep.
And in Digimon are more kind of doing that. Whereas Pokemon, it's just like, okay, I'm now a Venusaur, and I'm never gonna be a Bulbasaur or an Ivysaur again. I'm just done with that. Whereas in Digimon, there's kind of like multiple forms that you might use.
Right.
I'm pretty excited to play test it because we actually have a character who's going to be playing it more like Pokemon. Then we have a character who's going to be playing it more like Digimon. Then we have a character who's going to be playing an actual Aldemon. And then we have a player character who's doing the elemental avatar.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They
So
did not,
really-
Every possible combination.
We tried.
That's what I wanted. I wanted to show it all because I love the product. So I wanted to show it off. Plus, we're actually going to be playing in the Indigo Isles. So it's like really exciting to be doing all of that. And that's because of you guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
thanks.
Seriously.
Well, yeah, they didn't start yet. Ken wanted to know if you started. So if you go to, what's your YouTube channel?
Avenue Studios.
So just
Yeah, like
Avenue
the-
Studios.
Yep, that's it. The tree behind me, that's our logo. Celtic tree.
They had session 0 last week. And then tomorrow, I guess it's live at... You guys go kind of late. Was it 9 p.m. Eastern?
Yeah.
We have to put our kids to bed before we go live.
Oh,
I'm a
that's
father of 5.
I got 3.
right. Father of 5. Yikes.
Yeah.
It's too many.
I mean, like, that's a big man with shoulders.
I can have many kids.
That's I had 2 and that was more than enough. I can't even imagine what 5's like.
It's my little
Yikes.
orc tribe.
Yeah, it's true.
That's 5 kids and 11 campaigns.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's 11 Pathfinder. That's not including the 5th edition and 2 Savage Worlds.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
That's
So-
why we call him the Legend Master. He's a beast.
what I do.
That's way too much in my. That's way too much of everything. You say, yeah, you're impressed of how much work we do. I'm impressed how much work you do. Like running all those campaigns and managing all those kids. That sounds. I'd rather do what I'm doing. That's rather be working 24/7 on endless books. So damn. So
I mean, somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, somebody's got to playtest all of your material.
yeah, that's true. We have professional
point.
playtesters actually.
No, I'm just
Well,
teasing you.
I mean, speaking of that too, we have one of our characters is doing Thenos for the ancestry. So we're pulling from classic creatures, and then Cragrack for another's. That's from
Mhm.
Indigo Isles. So we're this
We're
is
really
like a
pulling
battle.
what we
Yeah.
can.
I know
Yeah, it's a
kind
good
of
fit. Like Linda is playing a Cragrack Aldemon trainer in my Jewel of the Indigo Isles campaign.
Ah,
Because
sweet.
Cragracks have their whole thing about their secondary element coming from and Linda wrote the Cragrack ancestry anyway, so she very well knew that. And So she's determining her Eldamon like based on her character's elemental affinities, and that Eldamon trainer is like mimetic for falling into pits or other kind of things that, well, because she was like, I always have to put up like my dexterity for every character unless maybe they're in heavy armor, but this Eldamon trainer is just going to phase out for my Eldamon, so I can just put it down and put up my mental stats. Then the problem is that then if there's ever a pit, then I'm like, okay, well, your Eldamon's not here right now, so you fall into the pit.
That's so
awesome.
good.
That's so good.
So
It
Mark,
makes for a great story, though. Yeah.
so Mark, why don't you explain? So for those of you who aren't familiar with, where is it?
Well, there's a whole bunch of plushies also on your shelf that people can
No, I'm
see
trying
of
to
them
find the
too.
book.
But
Here's my book. Oh, here it
Yes.
is. I have too many books.
I don't know. I might be able to find mine first.
So here's the
you got
Eldamon
yours.
book. So this is the book we're talking about, and it's our product. But basically, it is basically Eldamon, Digimon, Pokemon in the world of Pathfinder and 5e. And it's, we're not beating around the bush here. That's kind of what we're trying to do. But it also has the secret elemental avatar, which is Avatar of the Last Airbender, also mixed in there, which that came out of nowhere, and people sort of forget about that one until they read the book. But the elemental,
it depends on where you go. Actually, like if you look on, for instance, the Pathfinder 2 subreddit, they tend to talk more about the elemental avatar than the Eldamon trainer.
well,
And
the
that's
elemental
because
avatar,
they really wanted a focused elemental blasting class
Yes.
that feels like it's a spellcaster.
yes.
Kineticists can kind of do that, but you're also often spamming the same best move over and over again unless you're forced not to do that. And they wanted I want a variety of things, but like they're all ice. And you don't really want to do that with a sorcerer or a wizard because those classes are balanced around the fact you can pick whatever you want. You're kind of hamstringing yourself if you pick all ice. And so the fact that Eldamon Trainer really does force you to pick only ice and then gives you some additional strength upgrades to, compensate you for the fact that you really super hyper focus was something that they liked on there. So depending on where you go, people are sometimes all over the avatar, and they'll sometimes be, I don't know about collecting these cute creatures. I don't like cuteness as much in my games, but this spell casting system is just totally different. It's all day casting, it's strong blasting, and that's just what some of the people there really like.
Yeah, I know.
Mark was going to start rapping there. All day casting, strong blasting.
Well, there was an elder rap that
There's an
our
elder rap.
backers for Eldamon kind of like pushed us into adding as a stretch goal, and then I sent updates being like, guys, right now we haven't hit it yet, and we're getting near the end, so just please do not keep backing so that I don't have to do this elder rap. It's going to be terrible. In fact, the stretch goal even said it would be terrible. And then they didn't listen to me, and we had a surge of additional funding right at the end. And so you can find on the Roll for Combat channel, the terrible elder rap. It's on there.
How did I miss
Now I
that?
feel like a loser.
Yeah.
You never saw
seen
that?
the terrible
I
elder
follow
rap?
you guys, and I missed. Now I'm embarrassed.
That's been on there for like a year.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We
I'm so
fulfilled
mad.
we fulfilled our stretch goal, and we made and
That was a
the
while
one
ago.
person who was actually one of the moderators on the Reddit was very happy. He's like, this is exactly what I was hoping for with a terrible elder rap. It was just as bad as expected.
Man,
But I know what we're doing after this.
Yeah, we're
I'll
immediately
find
going
it
to pull that
and
up.
post it
Oh.
for everyone.
That's
But,
so good.
Thank you.
But actually, someone said this is what Summoner should have been. So one of the big things that we did is that I don't like summoners. I love the concept because actually, like, I always play a pet class. I always play a hunter in WoW, and I usually play pet classes. But the problem with pet classes and summoners is that it's two characters. Mark and I talked about this a lot, and then it ends up you having two weak characters to make one strong character. So that's where we came up with the concept of that.
I do like summoners, Steven.
What's that?
I do like summoners.
No,
Steven.
I like
I
summoners.
wrote summoners.
Okay,
I think
fine.
that they work well. In fact, they're probably one of the stronger classes overall when you combine what the
Yes.
two characters do.
Yes,
But-
but
Steven's totally right that for the fantasy of Eldamon and the fantasy of a monster trainer who it's just some guy, right? It's not like the monster. It's not like Ash Ketchum or like some of these Digimon trainers are like Conan the Barbarian or Gandalf. In addition to having this Pokemon or this Digimon that are out there, right? They're usually like just some guy or some gal who's just there and is doing their thing, right?
Yeah.
And so we wanted it to fulfill that fantasy, and also the fantasy that they might have multiple creatures, and after the first one's defeated, they're like, okay, you've done well, come back, go this other one. And so that was actually very hard to design.
But from a player standpoint, Mark, I have a lot of players who try the summoner, and the shared HP kills them. Like they don't like that, and I understand why the balance is there in Pathfinder. I'm not here to talk about that. But what you do is, if they complain about the summoners, then you just tell them about the Aldemon trainer, and it fixes it all.
They're very different. Although the HP is not shared, but like the damage does eventually get shared. But some people really freak out about having a summoner and an Eidolon that have their hit points shared, and they're like, I'm going to get hit by a fireball and have to take the worst of disadvantage on my saving throws all the time. I've seen it. I've seen people worried about it online, and look, I get it, but I've played a summoner throughout an adventure path, and I actually I thought that it was going to happen more than it did. I thought people online were overly worried about it, but it turned out that even my conception of what it was, there was less, where we were both in the area of things. And I eventually got to the level where there was a feat that would let me take the better of the two.
Oh, nice.
I chose not to take it because I looked and I'd only been in the area of the same effect as my Eidolon twice in 12 levels of play. And that's because my summoner, just stays in the back. She never moves forward, and the Eidolon is always in the front. And so, like, in order for us to be in the same area, it would almost have to be like a dragon shooting a lightning bolt, and like I'm choosing those two as the main targets to hit. And at that point, it's actually better for the party that even though we're taking the worst of our two saving throws, we're only getting hit once. In our one hit point pool, as opposed to if they hit like the Eidolon and the Life Oracle, then both of those two pools would be being hurt. So
it's true.
It's actually interesting. Now, obviously, if you're going out front with your Eidolon and flanking with it and using tandem attack, you're going to get hit by a lot more in shared AoEs. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, anyhow, what I was trying to get at is that we made it that you swap places, and that's the secret sauce, is that it's only one character, and you phase out, the Eldemon phases in, and that way it's almost like I think of it as a wrestling tag team, and that way you can give the Eldemon full powers and full capabilities, and you don't really have to worry as much, and then you also feel stronger and more powerful. And then obviously the cool thing is, like regular Eldemon, is that you can swap them out, so
it's really a tag team.
Yeah, it's really.
And they have lower hit points than a character normally would, which means that typically, if they do get beat up, you get to do that fantasy of, okay, hang in there. You've done as best that you can. Come back. I'll send in my next Eldemon.
Yes.
It's so good.
And it's balanced.
Yes.
Even though you get, potentially, if you really optimize for doing it right, you could get like 3 or even 4 Eldemon HP bars, each of which is not that much smaller than your own, maybe. Yep. But to make up for that, you did have to spend your turn sending out the other Eldemon when you did that. So if you think about it, it might seem unfair because it's like, wow, there's an Eldemon trainer, in order to fully defeat them, and they optimized with an orc so they wouldn't go down when they were at 1 hit point or whatever. And maybe I had to do 3 times as much damage, 2 to 3 times as much damage to defeat them as I would have if it was like a fighter just standing there. But they also spent multiple turns getting back the Eldemon, so that's kind of equivalent to if someone had been healing the fighter to get those extra hit points. So it actually balances out.
That's why with Eldemon, I really enjoy it, because it also does feel different than a summoner. So even if you have a summoner in the party, the Eldemon power surge, when it's got to go through the high damage and then a refresh, is really a really fun, unique mechanic, and it feels different. Because when they hit first, I've had a couple players, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a ton of power. But I'm like, but watch what happens for the next round. Like, it's not every round they're doing all that damage. It's a nice, this really cool like powerhouse where it's like stroke up, strong, refresh, stroke up, strong, refresh. And and they're all unique. And then they also have some of the unique, like the freeze and the burn, like how it builds up and stuff like that. So it's like,
have you had someone with electricity, if you're talking about the cycles and the flow, where they have to charge up the electricity, so then it's like their first turn is like a weak attack, but then their second one does like an obscene amount. And then at low levels, your third turn is a refresh where you don't do very much of anything except gather back your electricity. So it's got like this ebb and flow. And I mean, obviously you guys played with me when I was playing that water elemental avatar dragon, where I literally had high tide and low tide that were coming back in and out.
oh, it's so cool. And like mechanically, and then it turns into the role play element. Outside of combat, the Eldamon are so much fun because they can create really cool, unique little story elements, and they're around you, and your Eldamon trainer sitting there like talking with one, and not everybody sees them depending on how you have your rules set. So it is a really cool system, and it feels very Pokemon like, very Ash like.
I was going to shout out too, because I was talking when we set this up. One of the players, Austin, is huge Digimon fan, so we wanted to lean into that. But when we're reading through it, even though we're joking, Pokemon for Pathfinder, Digimon for D&D, it does have a very unique feel to it. It's still like you see what you guys were influenced by, but you guys really made something unique. Eldamon is very unique. I love the Eld. One of our characters is a cleric of the Eld. I thought that's so great.
Oh yeah,
that you guys made the Eld to a divine thing. So it's got a very unique world. I saw some people teasing about, I don't know if I want to play Pokemon. You can do it, and hopefully we'll show this in our campaign, is that you can take it a lot of different ways. There's a lot of ways to play with it.
You could do it more like Spren in Stormlord Archives if you wanted to do that. It could be more like Jin in Golden Sun. Like, we even in the intro chapter have different ways to change your background setting to how the Eldamon are sort of engaging in it, so that you can decide what the situation is. And yeah, sure, they could just be like cute little guys like in the Pokemon setting, but some of them are like these mysterious elder beings. Like Linda's Eldamon trainer found, like, we actually rolled randomly on the random tables of them, and it was like this ancient Fragarios, like the strawberry snail, that had been from so long ago that they didn't even speak common back then. And so she can't really communicate with it perfectly, but it's still been teaching her character about like herb growing. And so she took the herbalist archetype for to make some of like the herbal things that she's been learning from this ancient creature of like wood element.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, they're actually closer in my mind to Spren from Brandon Sanderson. That's actually where that's really how they're, because they're really elemental. And if you read Brandon Sanderson, the whole thing with the Spren is that they're part of the world, and everything has a Spren. Every aspect of the world pretty much has a Spren associated with them. So that's how we were able to get away with them existing within anything, whether it's the ground or another monster or the trees or the earth or, you know, fire. Like they're because that's how Spren exists. Spren are even weirder because they can exist in terms of pain or disease. Like even concepts are Spren in
because they come from a perpendicularity with like some other realm. I remember when Steven had some like goals for what Eldamon could be, but it was, you know, nebulous. I had some goals. We mixed, we met. I came back to him with the pitch for like what the metaphysics were of Eldamon. At first he's like, explain that to me again, because it's pretty like out there. And then when I said Spren, he was like, oh yes, now I understand what we're doing here with Eldamon, because of the fact that he had read Brandon Sanderson and the fact that there were some similarities, and that made it easier to understand this idea of being phased out, but melding into creatures and not exactly being on the same plane of existence, even though you're physically visible in some cases.
And it's also very malleable. It's that, like, yeah, they're cute, but I mean, seriously, like if you want to make them, like if you see the battle forms are all kind of pretty vicious, and that's not an accident. Like we kind of made them kind of nasty. You know, it's like their basic form their pet form is very cute, like pets. Their battle form is pretty vicious, and then their evolved form is evolved. It's sort of just some weird dichotomy of they're always gigantic and they're imposing. They're kind of almost like dragons in a way when they get to that level. But that's one thing I hear. But it's funny because I hear people don't like cute things, but
well, that's because some people don't.
No,
And
some people don't,
love them.
but they
and
want
the people who don't are the ones who are going to tell you about it because that is the internet in a nutshell.
I know, but they're not going to play this anyhow.
Like Thing X exists,
but I can't convince those people to begin with. That's the thing. It's
they never were convincible. The internet has just made it easy for you to hear all about the people who don't like whatever the thing is, and they have valid concerns, valid complaints. I'm not trying to say they should like it. It's just that you start hearing from all of them, and you don't hear as often from the people who do like, except. We have on the show right now some people who like it.
We love them. My kids love them. We love them.
Well, that's the main thing. It's very family friendly. It's mostly for kids. Not mostly, but it can be for kids.
I was gonna say it can be for kids, but I mean, as adults, we're loving it. I mean,
we're hoping to get because the one thing we do with these campaigns that we do is we really lean into the character story. So we want there to be some heavy emotions there and going into the deep things. Destiny is going to be a play in the campaign, and so
it's going to work out nicely.
It can go both ways.
And then for those people who are saying it's too cute, your rebuttal is, well, then go make some vicious ones. It's like, what do you mean? Use our awesome products to make some awesome vicious ones then, if that's your problem.
Oh yeah, I mean, actually on our Discord, people make their own Eldamons all the time. I mean, that's one use of AI generative art that works out really well is people definitely make a lot of
home game. They would have, I want to do this weird thing. I don't care that this is like a professional art piece or whatever. They just wanted to show people vaguely what it looked like, and they'll post it on there.
Oh yeah, they do that a lot, and that way you can make it whatever you want. Yeah,
right.
You can make a squirrel lash that's like very vicious. It doesn't have to be the cute one that we have.
Even though the squirrel lash is adorable.
Speaking of that, I do
have the random tables that might generate that you have a squirrel lash with a weird appearance. There's like a T100 of weird appearances. Sometimes it just says they look normal, but some of them do have like different color scheme, or maybe it might look vicious or something like that.
Those tables are like my favorite.
T100 tables.
I love those tables.
So I do have some new plushies that just came in from China.
Ooh.
That even Mark has not seen. Mark, look.
I haven't seen the new plushies that just came in. Let me see it.
Ta-da! Ta-da!
Oh, look at that! It's the Psychopomp.
It's a Psychopomp.
And with the way that the eye is done now, it looks even better than before.
They're actually cut out. So they're wearing the real mask. And then they have a little cloak.
Oh my gosh.
The cloak is my favorite part.
It's a Psychopomp wizard.
It's a Psychopomp wizard.
They're the scribes of the underworld, and they want to come help you out.
I need to get one of those for
these at Legends. Although I don't know when they're coming in, because hopefully the tariffs come down, because right now, I mean, I'm not in a rush to get these in, so I'm just waiting.
Were you able to get a few in under the de minimis limit before that?
No, actually, that's not it. No, because they're samples. Samples are free.
Oh, okay.
Samples are not tariffed.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But there's more than that, Mark.
Oh, he's gonna keep going.
What is that?
You don't know what this is.
Colorful.
I missed it. Oh my goodness. That's one of the creatures from Battlezoo Bestiary, Strange and Unusual, the plug-tailed Wally.
Yes. I have a plug-tailed Wally.
I can't believe you have a plug-tailed Wally. Where did that come from?
Where
did it go?
I'm looking into making new ones. So this is...
Wait, even despite the tariffs, that's like...
Well, I started this long before the tariffs, so...
Fair enough. I was going to say that's a wild and brave decision.
Well...
Even my friends.
They are gonna...
But I love that...
If they don't come down, they're going to come down, because
the colors.
There's no shipments.
Wow. I wonder if the creator of the plug-tailed Wally is going to be like super stoked to see that there's a plushie of it.
Yes. Well, I haven't done it yet. I was still fooling around, but there's another one.
I mean, there's at least a sample plushie. There exists in the world at least one plushie of their baby, the plug-tailed Wally.
Are you ready? There's one more I have. There's actually another one, but they didn't say
the sneak peeks we're getting. This is great.
I know, this is fun.
I didn't even know he was trying to make plug-tailed Wally. Wait, it's the blood mouse.
It's the blood mouse.
I have terrified my players with the blood mouse. I love bringing those
Wait,
into
and then
campaigns.
it's got Velcro, so you can close its
Wait,
mouth.
you can close it?
Oh,
and then-
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's so
It
great.
has
The fur
Velcro.
detail on there is good too. It came out
Oh
really
man,
Yeah. So
I told my household no more plushies. You know what? You're making me a liar, Steven.
and look out, and then we got the little tail.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, that's.
And he stands
Then
up.
you got any Zuggles?
Nope. This is it. This is the one of the kind. The only one in the
Uh-oh.
world for now.
Oh
So-
man, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
Those
we're
Wait
blood
a
looking-
mounts-
minute. You know what? I think that now that you mention it, that we may have talked a long time ago
We did.
about
Even you
which
forgot
things
this.
are
You
are
did.
cute and good for plushies, and I may have mentioned Plug-tailed Wally.
You
And
did.
now it's coming back to me now.
Yes, you did. So
now that
this
the
one,
blood mouse also
it's
appeared,
funny
that
too
was
because
definitely
this
on the
one,
list.
this one actually didn't look that great in the photos, but it actually came out pretty. I mean,
You
this is
have
what
a-
happens. I adjust them once they
I
come.
think our
I
photos,
adjust them
our photos always don't look as good
They don't
as
look
the
as
actual
good.
product.
because you can't see like
Ever.
how furry they like. They're very. It's very soft and very furry and like very plushy. That's the thing. And
Like
these
I
are
know
really
I said
well
the
made.
internet usually
Even this
tells you
one.
when something is like worse than they
'Cause it's
expected
printed,
or
but it's
not what they
super
want.
soft.
But I've
That's
received
cool.
over a dozen people who telling me that like our extra products, especially like the mimic from one of our campaigns, was
This
much
thing gonna make the
was
ears
much
bigger.
better than what it looked like in the photo that they saw. So
Yeah.
that tells me that photos definitely undersell how cool these things.
Yeah, like this one, I'll probably make the head a little bigger, make the ears bigger, like because like the tails. The problem is having all these tails. Like the tails were smaller, and I had them make them bigger. So this is why you get the actual physical. So you could adjust the
Yeah,
sizing of it. And then this was actually already gone through a couple of changes. Because like originally he didn't have buttons on his
God, the
vest,
buttons,
and he
great.
didn't have eyes on his thing. This was also much darker. I redid. Also, we changed the cloak, so now it has like an
I
inside,
love that.
and it just doesn't come off though. I mean, I guess we could do it. It's a lot more expensive. Actually, no. Does it come off? Let's see.
He's gonna rip it.
No,
Don't do
I
it.
don't. I have. Oh no, it comes off. at
Yeah.
that.
Oh man,
Oh, look at that. Wait, does it come off?
Wait,
Yeah.
he's not sure.
Yeah, it does.
Everyone,
Look.
there you go. So if he needs to go
Oh my
incognito
God.
without his colorful cloak to camouflage in,
Yeah. And he can't take off his mask. I told him that. The mask and the hat. The
Has
hat
to
I
stay
didn't
on.
want taken off because it's otherwise
well,
it'll just
and the
fall.
psychopomps that wear masks
never take
usually
off their mask.
keep them on when dealing with mortals as part of a way of like keeping their separateness between the afterlife and the mortals they are dealing with in that way. Whereas some
Mm.
who serve in purgatory itself don't wear masks because they don't need to deal with that.
good old Pharasma's eyeballs.
Mhm. So actually, this came out actually looks pretty good. Even just
I like
this. Even
I
just
have a
like this, it
campaign
looks
where I
pretty
have a
good.
lot of Nosoi, so I might have to pick one up.
And
Now
then
you can put the
even
coat
just,
on a gerbil.
I know, you could just actually take if you really want, you can rip the hat off. I think.
No, the hat just adds a cool uniqueness to it. That's
well,
awesome.
the problem is if you don't.
It-
I mean, I guess you could Velcro. Like if I really want, I can put Velcro, but I kind of just I don't really want to deal with that. But this
No, no.
stays
Yeah,
on,
fair.
so now we got to figure
That's
out how to
so
put
cool.
it back on.
That's
So-
awesome.
So someone asked
No.
who your favorite Eldamon is, Mark. Everyone
yeah.
asks us that. all
I
the
answered.
time.
I said I like too many Alderman. It's too hard to pick which one is my favorite out of all of them. It just depends on the situation, right? Like, what do you exactly need for your group in that particular instance? Like, if you're wanting some kind of healing or temporary hit points, it's got to be one of the life Alderman, and there's several that can be very helpful. Like, Skeppy can let you like
Skeppy.
divert damage onto yourself while also healing. But Ursili, if you know that you've got people in your group that are going to go down, helps you like when you get healed back up, have an extra action to stand, which can be so clutch in the situations where things are already going bad and keep you from spiraling out. So it's hard to say. Whereas Skeppy could be like, well, okay, but I've been a little scapegoat diverting the damage so that you wouldn't go down in the first place. And so like, how do you decide between that? But then Feedy, the healing snake, I really like sneaks. So and it can increase your healing amount as well when it turns into Caduceon, its battle form. So like there's a lot to think about. Even that was just even within life Alderman.
Well, that just means Mark's an actual Pokemon trainer and not Ash. That's all I'm hearing.
Yeah, Mark's the Pokemon trainer. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
You wouldn't send
Just like-
Pikachu against
just like
Onyx.
Pikachu is my best one, and I don't care about the rest of you that much comparatively.
So true. Well, we have a whole bunch of snacks in our campaign.
What?
Snakes.
Oh,
Because you have Lotus Neck and Caduceon, right?
yep. She's
Sorry, and Feedy.
Feedy.
Yep.
Yep. So, and then she also chose Kristen is the water eel. I'm blanking on the name.
Yeah, sure. It's
Oh.
like Anguilake is the battle.
Battle form, yes.
Yeah.
So she thought, well, I'll get 3. So she's got Lotus Neck, Feedy, and then that one
Yeah.
for 3
When she
snake.
proposed all
So
three, I was like, yeah.
if you're willing to say that an eel is a snake, you could also say that the pot foxes that have noodly bodies, even though they're a fox,
That's true.
heads, are also kind of snaky. Once you've gotten into the snake,
Right, how far- Right. She might still want slimy or scaly. So that might be the only, I could see an argument there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But maybe Jake can put it in her path.
Maybe
see.
put pot
'Cause
pots in the past.
To be joking too, right? We started with Austin wanting to be the Digimon and having that real emotional connection with one Eldamon and growing that over the course of the campaign. So my wife, credit to her, as always goes, "Oh well, I'm going to play Pokemon," and we're like, you know what? You can do that in one campaign and have both,
I'm so
and
excited.
that's what
That's
we're
true.
going to do.
That's true. Definitely the person who wants to mostly use the same one is going to want hang in there Eldamon reaction as soon as that feat becomes available, because that allows you to sacrifice your hit points to keep that same first Eldamon out longer. Because the base, we talked about earlier, the base gameplay loop is assuming that they have less hit points than you, so you can put out more than one in the fight.
Mhm.
But if you're like, no, I want to keep in the one that's the best for that moment, you can use that reaction to sort of emergency shunt some of the damage onto yourself and make it more likely that that one Eldamon can stay out. And as you're shutting out, hang in there, Eldamon!
Yes. See, to read that to a Digimon fan, that's so Digimon, right? You're like talking to your Digimon, emotionally connected.
So true.
How often
Love
does Ash call out too? Hang in there, Pikachu!
That's true. Yes.
They both do it.
Yep.
Oh man. Oh, we're gonna have some cool moments. I'm excited. I've been planning this for quite some time. I've wanted to do an Eldamon campaign for a while. It just timing wise, this is perfect. And then you guys got all kinds of cool products.
We should shout out to, we have a West March in our Discord going on in Pathfinder doing
We do.
Kingmaker, but one of the players really wanted to do Eldamon. So he is straight up Ash. Anytime there's an Eldamon shows up,
He goes crazy.
he goes crazy.
Gotta
He's
get it.
trying to
Gotta have
collect them
that.
all. Which shout out also too is the Battlezoo stuff can be integrated so easy. It was no problem to put Eldamon into Kingmaker at all. Other than it's really there's a little meta there playing on the Pokemon, which is fun.
But like that was one of like my core design principles that I was not going to budge on, was that depending on what the GM wants to do, if the answer is nothing other than you have Eldamon, I don't want to handle this, I needed the system to be able to let the GM just run whatever they were going to run. It doesn't have to be now the entire campaign is Pokemon and you're going to gyms or whatever. They can just run literally anything, and the player can just be the Eldamon trainer, and it's not going to be disruptive any more than that player might have been talking about like their animal companion as if they were a druid or something like that.
Or collecting all the NPCs.
Honestly, for anybody who's on the edge of dropping this into your campaign, it smoothly went into the Kingmaker campaign, and I'm talking like 30 players because it's a big West March, and it went in very smooth and balanced, and people love having them on the team. They love having them, using them in the role play, and like it really does. It's a good product, and it fits well.
If people are wondering how the heck is that even possible, it sounds like there's all these Eldamon, right? So and like, wouldn't I have to just add lots of encounters where you find the Eldamon to face them? That's not how it works. That the part that is like Spren or Jin from Golden Sun or something like that is that, you know, in Golden Sun, you don't go like attacking the Jin to get the Jin. You pick them up after you're doing other things that you were normally doing or being completionist and searching around. And so that's how Eldamon work too, because they can meld into places, objects, and creatures. When you go to a new location, you can roll for an Eldamon. the player can do it themselves. Assuming the GM trusts the player not to just like always be, oh my gosh, I found the rarest Eldamon that I always needed somehow every time. The player can just do it themselves. When you defeat a monster, you roll for the Eldamon. At most, if the player is doing it themselves, the GM could tell the player, if the player's like, hey, did this monster like have an elemental theme to it? Like, I didn't see it shoot a fire breath, but we also killed it before it could act. And the GM's like, well, it might have had some fire, so why don't you roll it on the fire table?
But if you want to put it in as a GM, they have ways of like melding with a rock. Like you literally could be walking through woods and be like, there's a rock in the path. And as you walk by, a cold chill goes down your spine. And the Eldamon player might be like, oh, is there, you know, he could be looking for a Chillot. And then you have them roll the sea. And like, then they can even, depending on how far you want to take it, you can even have the RP of them trying to befriend this. Or it could be simpler, depending on how you want to GM your game style. But that's what's really cool is it's a tool that can enhance your storytelling and add to the world around you. And it, or it could be as simple as like Mark's saying, well, you know, like you're saying, the fire, have the player roll. Okay, yeah, it's there, not there, you know, and that's fun too.
It could even get simpler than that, because that's even still using the system for rolling randomly to find them, which is the most complex system, but having the player do it because it can be automated. There's also rules for just automatic progression, where it's like, well, you know what? We assume that you found like a couple of Eldamon when you leveled, and just pick the ones that you want from either common, or maybe the GM will say, go ahead and pick whatever. Then that's really easy.
Yeah.
And so basically you can add, just like you said, you gave a very good description of it. You can add exactly however much you want to put into your campaign with Eldamon. They can be just mostly a mechanic that the player is doing. They can be a major role play element. And you can see how that works. Actually, you'll be able to soon, because we have a short adventure called Release the Kraken. It's about like 1 level-ish worth of XP that is coming out probably with the Kraken ancestry for Year of Titan. So probably somewhere around July, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's been written already and developed, so it's more of like a layout and an art thing at this point, but it has an encounter with an Eldamon that's in there. It's actually a new one that's not in the Eldamon book. We advertised that on the Kickstarter, so I'm not spoiling anything. We told everyone that would be the case, and it is. And so it can just be an NPC that adds something to the campaign beyond even just the fact that, yes, this powerful Eldamon can give you a fragment of its power that is a pet form that comes with you if you befriend it and impress it. But like, you can go from super integrated with arena battles that people set up in town for entertainment, and they have their own rule sets. We discussed what some of the different rule sets would be. There's not like one standard, because some of them might give too much of an advantage to like Death Eldamon, or at least Death Eldamon might be disruptive to the tournament, because whether they won or lost, the other person wouldn't be able to participate for a while, because death effects make Eldamon tired for longer. And there's a whole bunch. Or you can just be like, you know what? It's more like Final Fantasy, where they just call down the summons and we're not doing anything with them other than that. And that works too.
Oh, it's so awesome. So what's the plan on another big book filled with Eldamon?
So I'll tell you about that. We actually have...
No, tell me. I'm curious.
Yeah. So Steven and I actually have plans.
We do?
The thing is about our plans is that we sometimes forget those plans. But we have plans for 2 different potential Eldamon products that we've talked about before. The next one that we're thinking about doing at some point, like when we can, would be like an overall expansion to the system that puts in a lot of things that people wanted and asked for, but not new elements, but instead just kind of filling out with what we already have, because there's some things that are a little bit light right now, like the number of things on elements. People have been saying Eldamon specific magic items, because yes, there's like generic magic items that everyone wants, but doesn't it feel good to have like an aspirational one that's just for you? And other things like that that can like build and just sort of see, are people actually interested enough in buying a product that you have to have Eldamon to want? Basically, that we at Roll for Combat have been very careful about putting out products that stand alone and that you might just have never seen us before, and you come upon anything from our entire library and you can use it. You don't need to own anything else. You can get the latest Battlezoo Bestiary. You don't need the first Battlezoo Bestiary. You can get the latest Dragon book. You don't need the first Dragon book at all. It's got everything you need. But the Eldamon projects obviously would be building on something, so the audience becomes a subset of the audience of Eldamon, and we need to see if that exists. If there are enough people, because people have been asking, just like you did, can we do more? And so if we can do that and have it be successful, that proves that Eldamon has staying power, and that proves it enough that we can then do a third one, which we really, really want to do, but we kind of need to make sure it has legs, where we put in the 7 other elements from the Eld philosophy and religion, the ones that don't have Eldamon yet, right? All the Eldamon that they need to flourish, all their powers, completely new play styles, space, moving around, teleporting, time, like messing around with time, poison, and like huge amounts of damage over time, all those kinds of things. And so that it also would likely contain a new class or two. And I have some very strong ideas, because I'll just say there are other things you can do once you have all of these Eldamon and all these elemental powers, even beyond the elemental avatar and the Eldamon trainer. And at least one of which people really, really have been asking for a lot in other vectors. Not even to us, but just in general.
Yeah.
So I won't say any more than that. I don't want to spoil products that don't even exist yet and that are just sort of in planning.
The concepts. Yeah.
Well, the biggest issue is just like our Dragon books. It's a very long story, but basically the Dragon books were completely written and done. And obviously we did 4 of them. And the problem was when I did the layout, it wasn't big enough. And so we had to add to it a fair amount. And, that required, I think, like 10 to 15 new pieces of art. But the other thing it also needed was a lot more lore and writing. And we got some of it done by other people, but really because it was so new, Mark ended up doing a lot of the writing. Well, not most of it, it's all of it. He wrote all the new stuff, and it's not a small amount. So there's something like 20 pages per book that had to be written by Mark. And trust me, these books, I love these books. So that messed us up a little. But Dragons is the last one. It's nearly ready. If we do more Dragon books, we're going to make sure they do everything. Because now we know.
Well,
we know the layout.
We know what the form factor is going to be.
They'll do the whole
assuming
thing.
Assuming that everything we calculated now is still correct.
It would.
The main issue is that we first thought we were going to be able to fit all the dragons together into one gigantic book. But we discovered for multiple reasons that wasn't necessarily a good idea. Yeah. Especially because we like to listen to the fans, and a lot of people were saying, well, I love fairy dragons or Leshy or one of these. I don't want the other 3. I don't want to have to buy some enormous tome. I want to just get this one. And Steven was like, I want to make that happen for
a lot of people.
I want to find a way that you don't have to back all of it, because with our year of monsters, and we have a lot of things where you do get things together and get sort of almost a yearly subscription to something. And so if the dragons were like that too, Stephen wanted to let people split where he could, and splitting into 4 was more feasible than 12. But in so doing, every individual book would have been just a little too short. So I wound up having, and not only that, we then hit stretch goals past that. So that did kind of pull things out. But I would love also, speaking of which, like one of the things those dragons have also like delayed somewhat is like the Eldamon card game, which is another thing that I've been working on too. So I really want to get back to that once the Living Legends stretch goals are done. And I'm very excited about, I want to try to get out like 2 elements in like an alpha playtest ready state when I can, because we're going to need extensive like internal, well, not internal, but like the kind of like open-esque where we ask people and vet and have people and get a small group that has the time to do it a lot. Because when you're cooperative, like D&D or Pathfinder, I think it's important to playtest. You learn a lot from it, but when you're competitive, like the Eldamon Battles card game, you really, really, really need to playtest a ton, because that's when the players are going up against each other instead of working together to win. And so if one of the cards is just busted, it just throws off the entire competitive scene.
Right.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Well, so you heard it here, guys. There's hope for more Eldamon. Just show them more love.
Yeah, the book only came out last year. I mean, people seem to forget that. I mean, back then, it only came out last Origins, like right around Origins. So it's actually been less. Yeah. It's actually been out less than a year. It just seems longer because it took so long to develop. And
because I think the PDF came out.
The PDF came out way before the book.
The PDF, I think, came out like, I want to say,
that was
like February or January of 2024, and then the book came out at Origins. Is that right?
Around there, yeah. I had the book.
Yeah, because I've been loving on the PDF. I mean, since I got it, I've been talking about it.
Yeah, so it's not been out as long as people think. It just seems like it because we were talking about it. It feels like it. But it's really not. It's not even been a year. Like that
does seem actually crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
The more people buy it, the more people support it. And especially once we give a shot at that second one, the one that like will expand the world, the lore, like the items and some of the Eldamon for the existing elements. If we see that people want that and are like, yes, give us Eldamon. Yes, we know that this requires the other book, but we're that into it. We want more things for it. That's going to be a green light for sure on the third one. And I know that there are people excited about the third one, but it requires a large amount of sort of design work and playtesting from our playtesters to do new elements and new classes and things like that. And so we need to be able to justify that work by knowing that the audience is out there to expand on the existing system rather than making something else that's with using that same brain work to make something totally new that anybody could use.
Well, I'll continue my best to spread the name of Eldamon.
Well, because I'm hearing we got to finish fleshing out the lore with the books, card game. The only thing left, I'll put out in the ether, is the anime.
That's true.
Eldamon, the gatekeepers.
There you go.
That's
Eldamon anime.
That's out of my wheelhouse. You guys can handle that.
Look, Steven knows a lot of people, but I'm going to tell you that Steven would be more capable, which he's not capable of either of these, but he would be more capable of getting a Hollywood movie for Eldamon than he would be of getting an anime for Eldamon. Just because the Japanese market is pretty insular. It's hard for someone from the US to actually like get their foot in the door over there.
No, that's
so it goes from a 1 in a million chance or even less for to like even like 0 for him to be able to get an anime.
Yeah,
so you're saying there's a chance?
All I'm hearing is there's a chance.
I said 0.
There's always a
0
chance.
is the chance. You're right about that.
There's always a chance. Well, that's not like in my wheel. I mean, right now the big one is we're working on the Shadow Dark stuff.
I know.
That's sort of taking up most of our, not most, but that's
the Shadow Dark stuff could be something huge because there've been a lot of people who make things for Shadow Dark as well. But the one thing that's I think is pretty special is that we have not only like sort of like the budget that Steven brings in for combat products to be like very high quality in that regard, but we also have the assistant librarian from Arcane Library, Michael, who is, did the Roustabout class, which is very one that people just really.
He's literally Kelsey's assistant.
That's what I mean. He's the assistant librarian. Kelsey's the head librarian, right?
Yeah.
He did the Roustabout class for Shadow Dark.
He's done a million things. That's his claim to fame.
I know, but that's one that people really like because it lets you play with really low ability scores and just do something funny with that, right? And so he is the one who's spearheading our conversion because we're focused on whenever we make something for a particular game, we want to bring in someone who really knows that game. And, like I'm one of the co-creators for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Or when we're talking about our monsters for 5e, Paul Hughes analyzed the 5e monsters 5 ways to Sunday, because because Wizards didn't have like official statistics on the monsters necessarily. The monster builder guy was a little bit more loosey goosey, and he has looked at every level. And he's made graphs. He built a level up for EN World, their Bestiary monster, which is like kind of a 5e expanded system, and so he does our monster conversions for 5e. And in this case, Michael really knows Shadow Dark. So we want to make sure that we are faithful to the game system that we're bringing it into by bringing someone who absolutely knows what they're doing, rather than sort of just a conversion that's like, we're people who love this game and we also like this game, so we're just kind of going to try to move it over to there as best we can ourselves. That's not how we do it. I mean, we have a lot of game design foo available among ourselves, but we still think it's best to bring in someone who knows the fans and knows the game system well enough to put out something that's going to be faithful and people are going to look at and say, yes, this is a product that is Shadow Dark compatible. It truly is. But it is also a Roll for Combat product. It feels like both.
Well, we joke that we call you guys second party.
Yeah, you're not quite third party content. You're second party content.
Party.
I mean, it's not totally wrong in the video game sense, right?
Yes.
Where in video games where you have a license, it's sometimes considered second party. And in that sense, the Bestiary, Battlezoo Bestiary, which was like the first product that Steven was working on with the RPG Superstar contest. Steven did have a license from Paizo for that contest. And like, according to Steven, like Eric Mona, the publisher at Paizo, suggested making a book of the monsters from the contest, and that's how it happened. So like that is a very second party style origin story. Now, it wouldn't classify precisely by the video game second party term because, and specifically, it has multiple systems now, because second party video games always have like an exclusivity license for like one console. But this is also not a video game.
Yeah. So, but are we just like making that joke because you guys
that's
are
not
so
true,
good?
Mark, actually, and that's not true anymore.
They
because
don't always have exclusivity. Fair enough.
No. Well, think about
second
all
party traditionally is you, the consumer, right? But video games use it in a different way.
Well, think about all the stuff for like God of War.
Was
it considered second party though? I thought it was just a strong AAA game.
Well, it is. What ended up happening is those are studios owned by Sony, but they're independent studios, and then they made the game specifically for PlayStation, but then they were also released for the PC. They were not released for the Xbox, but the PC might as well be the Xbox because it's the same thing. And that was a big deal. Like they keep releasing their games for the PC, so you can get them through a second part, a secondary market other than PlayStation. So
that's fair enough.
Yeah. To circle back around, it shows as somebody who's ran it both, not all, but a lot of your Battlezoo stuff in both 5th edition and Pathfinder. It fits. It feels good. It's meant to be there. It doesn't feel awkward. Sometimes you get worried about introducing these other outside Paizo mechanics, and you're like, is it gonna work? It will work. I tell you that right now, and you guys know that. You've put in the work, you've brought in the people, and you've done an amazing job at it. So if you want to play Pokemon in Pathfinder 2nd edition or D&D 5th edition, just go through the Alamon route. Yes. It's perfect.
There you go. And one story I have about our conversion that made me feel very happy is actually about Eldamon. The first Agile Monk sent in a member chat greetings to all the RFC fans, Steven and Mark. So,
hello, Agile Monk.
Here's my story. We've got a Discord, a Roll for Combat Discord, and people come on there a lot. We've got people from pretty much all of the systems we work on there now. Even some Shadow Dark people are coming on, but most of the people who are on there, of course, are D&D or Pathfinder fans, because those are the ones we published for the longest time. And everyone's different. There's all sorts of personalities and people who like to hang out there, but I would generally say that the D&D fans are more likely to be people who are curious and asking questions and finding out more. And some of the Pathfinder fans tend to also be slightly more likely to be veterans who really want to help people and answer questions. And so at one point on Eldamon, there was a very interesting conversation where somebody started asking a lot of questions because they just wanted to know how things worked out. and they were getting a lot of answers from somebody else. And after about 20 minutes of a conversation, like, what about the frozen condition? Kids is like, oh yeah, that can be cumulative, it was about this long thing. Eventually, the person who's helping them is like, and then it does this much damage. And they're like, wait a minute. In my file, it says that it does that much damage. And at that point, I had been seeing this and been like, you know what? They've got this covered. I don't need to say anything. And I was like, okay, the person who is answering the questions is playing Pathfinder 2. The person who is asking the questions is playing 5e, and they don't know that because they are now confused. So I came in and like, hey guys, just so you know, I think I figured this out, but you're playing 5e, D&D, you're playing Pathfinder 2, right? And they're like, yes, how did you know? I was like, well, I saw the damage expressions. I know which ones those are from.
Yeah.
And then they were like, whoa, like we talked together for like 20 minutes and everything that we said like applied and actually helped us advise each other for the 2. That's how faithful the conversion was between the 2 systems, that it all made the things they were saying made sense about like the lore and the overall mechanics, and it was true to both systems until they got into something very specific, because Pathfinder has higher hit points and damage than 5e does. So like, I thought that was so cool.
That is
Roll for combat, healing the world.
Yeah,
RPG rules.
So you're putting the band-aids between the 2 fighters.
Well, no, I mean, not just because people were being friendly and not like doing addition wars. I mean, there are a lot of places where people don't do addition wars, but
I know.
Yeah,
we're just teasing.
It's just so fun to tease.
Yeah, that's awesome. It is a fun product. I don't have a favorite Eldamon. I've been thinking about it since that
You've been
person
trying to
asked,
think.
and I'm like, I like them all for what they are. I mean, they're all unique. I don't know why I keep going back to that. I was like, I can't think of a favorite one. It's crazy.
So what do you guys do? What is Avenue Studios? Just fun stuff?
Basically. So as of now, we do live stream actual plays. We've been on YouTube for 8 years now, I think. So it's been a side hustle. I started it with some friends. We were playing Open Legend. And then we started changing over to the live streaming. So it's always been a side hustle, and we just want to tell really good stories with dice games. And I really feel like people are looking for authentic, real, interactive media right now, and live streaming creates that. So like the chat can purchase things through Streamlabs and stuff to affect the story, and we're trying to integrate it where it's not just mechanical effects, it's actually they become a part of the story, almost like interactive theater. That's kind of what we're going for. Heavy on the role play. So we're experimenting with, can we make this viable? But at the least, we're having fun games with each other and enjoying it with like people all over the world at the same time. So it's our side hustle. I have a background in video and film, and my wife and I have a photo studio and stuff. And then I also do construction. So I built the sets and everything for our studio. And then Jake, of course, is the Legend Master.
Professional Dungeon Master here. I support my 5 children and sometimes my wife on running games professionally. And I actually run about 14 a week right now. So that's what I do. And I'm very involved. I am very passionate about tabletop RPG, and we both like using stories to bring people together.
Yeah.
So it was like one of our things through using Avenue Studios and running games is just bring people together, telling good stories and having a good time, and that's just what we do. I mean, it's fun.
Yes. And we do. Shout out to Odin's Key Gaming in the chat. We played with them recently, but we do one shots in all different indie systems. Anyone who's having a Kickstarter or backer kit or something, we try to play test them with a Squirrel Plays. I saw him in the chat earlier too.
We do like showcasing people's products.
Yeah.
It is in actual plays.
Right. Yes.
So that is a lot of fun that way. But yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I don't know what we're doing yet. We'll let you know when we're grown up.
No, that's what we're doing.
So there's a question in the chat of what you think needs to be done in D&D Pathfinder for like a Pokemon mystery dungeon style campaign where they're just playing the Pokemon. Well, these guys are having one character that is doing that. Our rules have a quick and easy way to do that if you want, by just raising the hit points on one of the Eldamon. We explain that they don't have that much of a variety of things they can do. as opposed to being an Eldamon trainer where you have a ton of different Eldamon, or an elemental avatar where in addition to the elemental stuff you do, like you're a person and you can like drink a potion and things like that. But the Eldamon, in the way where you just raise their hit points and play them, like, yes, they're less versatile, but they're still effective at the thing that they can do. They're just not as effective as someone who's using all the versatility, but that makes them good for newbies or children, or someone who, if you tell them that there's all this other versatility, they might either A, not use it, or B, get lost and do something that was like worse than just their main gameplay loop. Whereas if you only showed them the main gameplay loop, maybe they would do better because that was their only option.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to showcase somebody playing an Eldamon in our campaign. So
Yes.
I'm pretty excited about it.
It's a surprise.
It's a
What
surprise. So I'm
Eldamon?
trying not to release it.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I didn't even know you had revealed that someone was doing it until you mentioned it earlier in this show, because I knew you were making it a secret. So I was planning on making sure I didn't say anything.
Oh,
No, you're
thank
great.
you.
No, you're good. Yeah, we're surprising. One of the players knows it's coming, but didn't want to know which Eldamon it's going to be. So
Oh, the person who's playing the Eldamon was not told which Eldamon they're playing, or
It's-
one of the other people wasn't told.
other people who's going to
Okay.
have the very close relationship with the Eldamon, because that's actually what we decided with the Digimon. We were like, you know what? To have that emotional connection that Digimon really goes into, why not have it so you can actually role play with somebody else and have the Eldamon have its own personality and voice.
So is that Eldamon, which we're not going to say which one it is, now your guys' favorite Eldamon, now that it's become such a large part of the story?
Oh,
we'll have to see.
maybe.
It's close to mine. It's close to mine.
Yeah.
I like the look. I mean, it's quite. Oh, I mean, not to like do the wishy-washy answer, but it's like for this campaign, absolutely, because it fits what we're doing. But like a different campaign, I don't know. I might do. What's the death dog?
Oh yeah, more pup, more pup.
Yes,
More
more
Pup,
pup. I love more pup.
With the little,
But I'm a
the
wolf
little,
type
the
person.
little red scarf of fate, and just like
Yes.
kind of, yeah. Well, if you're wolf type, you also might like Fenris,
Yes.
or Scold is the other form. The ice, the rare ice wolf.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then there's the coyote.
Yes, Dusk Coyote.
Dusk, yeah,
That's
Dusk
got-
Coyote, yeah.
yes.
Ah,
I
so
don't
many
know.
options.
Man, yeah. There's something else I was gonna say, but now I can't remember.
Yeah, we derailed you.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Derailed.
Sorry about
Eldamon.
that.
No, you're good. It's
So-
just so much fun.
So what campaign? What do you run if you're a professional? Is it just one shots, or is it adventure paths, or?
I run a little bit of everything. So I run. Excuse me. I'm getting over a cold. Sorry. I run 8 adventure paths that are Pathfinder published adventure paths, and then I have 4 that are homebrewed, and then 2 are I'm using Savage Worlds, but I'm using adventure paths from Paizo in Savage Worlds. For setting is Galarian, and rule set is Savage Worlds. So it works out really well.
Are you using the official Pathfinder for Savage Worlds?
I am.
Because I know they had that for what, Rise of the Rune Lords?
Absolutely. Actually,
Mhm.
they just released more too. It's actually really well done.
Awesome.
And I love that they have that partnership. It is really cool. And the fact that like some groups really like Savage Worlds and Pathfinder was a little too crunchy for them. So this is a nice middle ground. And so if you guys ever want to consider doing Battlezoo stuff for Savage Worlds, I know I would be a supporter. Want more books? There it is, Steven.
Yeah, that's not gonna.
Well, we need to pick things where we have both the audience and the connections, right?
I know, I'm
Because-
teasing Steven.
Oh, I know. I know.
But just releasing everything. I'll support it all.
Yeah, you will.
Well, yeah, we need more than one person. That's the problem.
We'll
I
do it in-
know.
It's just-
we'll do it in literally everything. That's right. That's
Well,
right.
you can convert it. I'll give you my
in
commission.
your
You can convert it.
itch.io
There you go.
RPG that has had 10 downloads. We're gonna have to release it in that too.
All the systems.
Just doing Shadow Dark. I mean, Shadow Dark. We've been working on that one for more than half a year. I mean, it takes a long time to like update these things. so-
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to
People
do
in
it
chat,
right.
one person in chat says Bubo the Owl is the best.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
History Racer.
He's on our show.
He's in the
so-
campaign.
Okay.
Shout out History Racer.
I
So
don't
he's
rem-
doing
I
the
don't
Crag Rack
remember
and
that Eldamon.
You
It's
don't
the
remember
owl.
Bubo the Owl?
Nope. Oh, I thought he
So-
said the elf. I was like, oh,
no,
there's an
the
elf.
owl. The owl.
Oh no, I know
Bubo.
the owl. The owl. I thought he said an elf. I was like, oh, there's an elf. I was like,
There is not an elf
I know.
Eldamon.
That's why I was like, okay, there's no elf. I know that. I know there's no elf.
If there was an Eldamon that even, I mean, there's a fairy, a mirror fairy.
Yeah, that's right.
I like the mirror
That's-
fairy.
The mirror fairy is an interesting
It's
one because
really
it starts
weird.
as a mirror, but it actually evolves into a fairy, which it causes it to shrink.
It's very weird. That's actually
It's
one
the
of the
only
weirdest
one that
ones.
actually is smaller in its
Goes
evolved
smaller.
form than its
Yes.
battle form.
Yeah. That one, yeah, that
That's-
one gets really tiny. Well, the other ones get huge. That one gets smaller.
Yes,
And it also
love
looks
that.
completely different. It's
the,
actually
the
goes from
strawberry
mirror.
snail becomes even bigger than
Well,
the
that
other
one-
evolved forms. It's like a mountain
That one's ridiculous.
on top of the
Yes.
snail.
Yeah, that one's
And the
too big.
what's the turtle? I'm blanking too.
Oh, Chelawat.
yeah,
It's Twirtle is the little one, and then Chelawat, and then Thortus is the evolved form.
Fortis.
yes.
Yes, Thortus.
Love it.
It just makes me think of Discworld every time I look at it.
It's on top of the turtle.
Well, you will
That's
have
awesome.
a new Eldamon in a little while.
Yeah, the one I mentioned earlier in the
Mhm.
show for Release the Kraken. But
Mhm.
no, we're not going to tell you anything about what it is and what it does.
Well,
But
it's new.
it's brand new.
Hmm.
It's rare for whatever element it is. You can guess which elements you think might
It's
be
super
represented in
rare.
an adventure called Release
Ooh.
the Kraken.
But
But
that
Yeah,
was,
we're not
wasn't it
gonna tell you.
legendary, or is it just
But
rare?
Spam
it is rare.
chat.
That's rare.
It is rare. The specific NPC that you meet is a ancient and more powerful version of that rare one, but
Oh,
it
right.
is not a legendary Eldamon, which is a different kind of thing that are like a one of a kind Eldamon, which is a new mechanic that we have not fully created yet, but that if we did do that second Eldamon project, that seems like something
I'll
we
have to do
might
that.
explore in there.
Yes,
Man,
it would be
That's
one
something
and done.
so many people asked for that. They really wanted something beyond rare, a unique legendary Eldamon that just brought it past that. And so
Yeah,
that is
gotta
something
have the
that we would want.
151.
Yeah, right. That's something we'd want to explore in that
Mhm.
Eldamon second project is putting in legendary Eldamon, maybe more rare, like Darkness and Light, due to a poll that put Darkness as the top choice, got like one extra Eldamon each, or three really if you count the battle and the
Mhm,
evolved
mhm.
form. So we might want to fill out some of the other elements so they have more choices, maybe some more powers, so that you're not, so that you know, more than two choices each time a new rank of powers comes up. That's the kind of thing, like as the overall expansion, quality of life increase, and just
Mhm.
more of everything that like a second one might do. And then the third would be look at these new elements and new class or classes.
Oh,
Yeah, the crazy ones.
I want it to happen.
I know.
I want it to happen.
They were
so bad.
the players were asking for it when we started talking about it, because of course they go right to what was it, time, I think.
Yeah, one of the players wanted.
Looking at
He's like,
time.
where's the time Eldamon? I'm like, no, they're
I
patience,
know.
my love.
Just
Well,
relax,
we
buddy.
didn't have enough stretch goals. In retrospect, it actually worked out okay because
It worked out better, I
probably wouldn't
think.
have finished it until now if it was all
Yeah,
20.
if we had 20, the book would have been too enormous, or we may have had to sacrifice on versatility for each one, and I wouldn't have liked that. I think it has what it
Mhm.
needs to have. So I
Yeah.
think
The
13
book does not feel incomplete.
Oh no.
Yeah.
13 is almost perfect because it's like 2/3 of them. And that way, if the second book has the remaining third, it also can have some expansion as well of the existing content, even past what was in the second book, without feeling like it is so constricted. Or, you know, the new 1/3 of the elements also can come with more when they started off, because the second project will have already expanded the existing elements a little bit.
Oh,
Right.
That's
And so if
awesome.
we want it to be fair, then they would actually start with more. And so by having half as many new elements in it, it actually gives a lot of freedom to do more things and not be like, well, if we had done like 10 and then 10 and had no stretch goals, that would be really tight. We wouldn't be able to do much else in the second book. And if we'd done 20, the first book would have kind of been a disaster. So I'm actually pretty happy with 13 and 7.
And you're just leaving little crackers for all the people who read it, and they're like, "But I want space and time." Well, go support them, and you can have it.
I actually
They-
have the name of the next bookmark. I didn't tell you that.
Do
Of
we
the-
all get to know?
What?
I came up
for the
with the
next
name.
Eldamon project. We have a name.
We
for it.
do?
Yes.
Type it in the chat. It might be the same thing I thought of, which would be silly because that happens all the time. Because I forget these things.
I mean, we had an outline with a name for
what's
for
it
that
called?
project. I'll type it into my private chat.
Right,
with
your
you.
private chat. What did you have? Oh, yeah, that one's all right. I was gonna have.
You might have a better one.
I
We're
have.
so close to the secrets. We're so close. To
You
the
might have a
secrets.
better one than that, but we had a name for it because of some of the things that included.
That's what I was thinking.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that
Oh,
one.
even
Yeah,
had the
yeah.
name that's for book 3,
Yeah,
which did not have a name yet.
Yeah, I'm talking about the book. Yeah, the next book.
That name sounds good, other than the fact that it only covers a subset of what's in the book. But I bet there's something we can do with that.
Yeah, but it's something. It's well, it covers a big one. So
It's like watching wizards put a new spell together.
Yeah.
well,
Wizards
I
from
knew what the
Pokemon.
second one. That you're talking about the other project. I was talking about the
Yeah, I'm
actual
talking about
book.
the second
no,
one.
that
You were
one
talking
I
about
knew.
the third one. So
I'm talking about the third
we got tangled up on there. You're right that we never talked about the name for the third one, and we should come up with something. And that is a very catchy sounding name.
That's very good. That's very good.
They're just literally dangling it right there.
Sorry.
That's
Where the
Well,
kids
because we don't know what it is
yet.
yet. We have to workshop it a little.
We have to. I think we have to workshop it because of the fact that that only contains a subset of them. That could also be the name of like a subsection or like one of the chapters.
Well, it's an idea. Well, because then
it's a good starting point. Look, it's better than some of the first name ideas we've had for other books by a significant amount. So
Naming is one of the hardest things.
not as bad as I don't know. I do it a lot professionally, so it's I don't know. I guess
Yeah,
it's
you
not
got
so
the
bad.
muscles well developed.
I have the muscle well developed because actually I do that a lot for advertising. So I know the tricks for coming up with names.
yeah, like Strange and Unusual for the second
You want
Battlezoo
verbs.
Bestiary was just a really good name.
Verbs, quick, easy to spell, easy to say, easy to remember. There's like all these rules, and once you go by the rules, it's really not that hard. Most people break them. That's what happens is people come up with bad names. That's the easy part. Coming up with good ones is actually
Yes.
there's a method to it. Like, in fact, the Nike in that movie with Ben Affleck, that was like one of the funny jokes, is because they originally called Nike something else, and they're talking to the president, Phil, and he says, the only reason we came up with Nike is because the ad agency said we needed something with 4 letters. That was like literally it. I'm like, yeah,
Wow.
pretty much. I mean, that's how things that's how we come up with names. It's like,
Wait, they didn't do it for the Greek goddess of
It just
victory?
happened
They just
to
picked
be
4 random letters.
it had to be 4 letters, and they tied it in. It was all tied to that.
Oh, okay. So
But
there were other reasons.
There were
but-
other reasons, but it was Nike because he didn't come up with the name. The ad agency did. And they said, yeah,
That makes sense.
they just need 4 letters. And then we came up with Nike.
Steven makes good names. Like with Strange and Unusual, he just had it because it was like a Beetlejuice quote or something
Beetlejuice.
like that.
Yep.
For Elemental Storm, there's a funny story about that for our third bestiary, which is that Steven came to me and I had like just been hired full time by Steven. Strange and Unusual was already done. And Steven's like, okay, I'm really excited now that you're here. I want to do another one. And I think I'm going to call it Wrath of Elements.
That's right.
And that is a very awesome sounding name. But I was just like, Steven, no, come up with another name, please. Not anything but that. And he was like, why? I was like, yeah, I just don't think it works. And because meanwhile, I under NDA from Paizo, so I can't tell him that
yes.
Rage of Elements
Yes.
is a book that was going to be, and he was going to announce this this RPG Superstar Wrath of Elements like the same day on PaizoCon that Rage of Elements was going to announce. I was I was thinking like, A, that's not great if they have almost the exact same name. B, it also looks weird, and especially since I'm tied to it and I would have known about Rage of Elements.
That's my problem.
In fact, I'm trying not to violate any of my NDAs to anybody about the fact that these things are going on that I can't tell the other side.
Mike's like Neo in the
not
Matrix.
And so then Steven's like, what about Elemental Storm? I'm like, that's great. That's great.
Anything but the first one.
Just not Wrath of Elements because it
You
was
actually
almost
could have told
exactly
me
Rage
that
of
even
Elements.
if you're under NDA, because
What?
it would have covered under our NDA. By the way, you're allowed
What?
to say. You could have actually told me. even though it's under NDA. Because
I think that it is true that since you were a partner and were receiving advance notice
well,
of
on
products,
top
that
of that, there's
you
like
may
trade
have even
secrets within
actually
trade
already
secrets.
seen a presentation where they told you
Yeah,
that
I
Mark
think I
just
knew
didn't want to
about
get in
it.
trouble.
Or
the Rage of
something.
Elements was there, which I did not find out until later when Steven invited me to one of those presentations for things.
Yeah.
But you may have actually
Although
already
they
seen
did
it,
announce
but-
yesterday the Dragon Book, and let me tell you,
Well, and by announce, what you mean is Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble announced it for
I
them.
saw that. A big old
and I
leakage.
read that. I was like, that sounds a lot like our book.
Well, you know,
sounds very familiar. Sounds very similar. I mean, they have a little different, but I was like, it looks like
I think it's pretty different, Steven. I think that all
similar.
RPG books are similar, just they are. I think it's complete coincidence. Like I say this every time on the show that
disagree.
anyone tries to imply that there's not a
Well, let's
coincidence.
see.
that crazier
Statistics for
things that
20
have
types of
happened.
dragons. That's what we
talked
have.
we talked about
Arch
Dennis
dragons.
the Menace.
That's what we have. That's
Remember
their
Dennis
worms.
the Menace when the
Spanish
British and
background
the
and
American
lores.
Dennis the Menace came out on
That's
exactly the
ours.
same day by coincidence?
They do have dragon deities. We don't have that.
Yeah, it's just like this is just what you would do if you knew what you were doing and you wanted to make an awesome dragon.
Yeah, but Battlezoo did it first.
Yeah, we did it.
Well,
And
just
it took a
saying,
while.
they're
We had to
doing
figure it out.
differently.
That actually was a
Like,
pain.
the reason we did it first is mainly because Paizo has always been reticent to do a lot of dragon books, partially because I guess, Dungeons and Dragons has dragons in the name. Like there's been fewer dragon adventures and dragon books there. It's just been a little bit slow to put them out, but I think their dragon book is going to be awesome. I'm very excited.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be great.
Their ancestry is dragonettes, which are like the baby little fairy dragons and the little ones. And those are specifically, we have a dragonette form feat that lets you shrink down to tiny, but we're doing the true dragons, which are the big ones. And people often ask, well, what about a dragonette or like a pseudo dragon or any of those like tiny house drakes? And I'm like, well, the ancestry isn't that, though, because the lore of it is that you're playing one of these true dragons that goes from wormling to great worm, and you've used magic to kind of push that all together so that you can become an adventurer and get it at once. So it wouldn't make sense for one that didn't do that. And so we made fairy dragons sort of as a compromise, the true dragons that are from the Fey realms, because people wanted to play something like that. But I'm really excited because I think that when you put together Paizo giving you the dragonettes and Battlezoo giving you the true dragons, now you've got everything. The only thing you don't have is wyverns and drakes. So somebody should do that, and then we will have all of the dragons.
It's true.
Yeah. We don't do those because they're too easy, the other ones.
Well, and also just because of the fact that they're like a little bit more like bestial than some of the other dragons. So you could still do it, but also they don't have hands.
It's too easy.
Like they very specifically, the anatomical thing of them is that they don't have hands. So if we were like, well, our drakes do have hands so that they can hold their weapons, it would be like, well, great. But that was like the one artistic thing about them that was different than other dragons. That they didn't have the claws, and now you added them back. So there's a lot of reasons why I think it made sense. It's not a surprise in retrospect that Paizo went with dragonettes instead of drakes. And I think dragonettes was an excellent choice.
Yeah.
I've had a couple players play as the dragons.
Oh yeah, playing as a dragon.
You had me play as the lunar dragon, who was constantly fanficking all of the characters.
Oh, dragons are great to play as.
No, that's actually. I have to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
I was gonna say that's actually the thing. If you want to know what we do, is like the one thing that I do that is common with all of our products is that if I find it's too easy, or someone else could do it, that's. I don't know how to put it, but we need very challenging products that are very difficult for other people to do, either correctly or at all. And
it's one of the things I say when I'm trying to describe our brand to retailers. Steven's got it exactly right. I say that like we focus on making what seems like it's impossible possible.
You mean monster carving?
Well, yeah.
Finally, somebody
monster
did it
carving
right.
and not kill yourself. I mean, it's a little complex.
Well, making it so that it can work for any monster and not just the ones that you.
I use it all the time as a reward for my players. It is so well done and so balanced.
We're going to do that in the campaign.
We're going to do it in the campaign.
I mean, a little simply, just because on live stream we don't want to take too much time, but That's one of the main rewards.
But that's one thing
why.
I've been searching for years and have not found somebody to do it correctly. And I'm going to say you guys did it correctly, both 5th edition and Pathfinder.
Dang it. Well, that's
we
the thing.
focus on making the impossible possible by having lore that describes why the heck you can do this and makes it make sense, because people would think it doesn't make sense. You can just play a red dragon, and mechanics that make it balanced and work in your game. That's our focus. If it's something that basically, if it's something that's just like, well, this is an expansion to add new feats to this class that probably does need new feats. I would, if someone's like, will you do that at Battlezoo? I often tell them, I think it does need new feats. And the kind of feats you just said would add to the class was a good idea. I say, maybe you should publish it on Pathfinder Infinite or somewhere else. I think that'd be good.
Well, that's why
that would be an awesome project. That's a good idea that you had.
2.0.
But we're probably not going to do that because it's not kind of an innovative new thing all on its own.
Yeah, the SRD 5.2, I didn't even look at really that much because I'm like, it really doesn't affect us because almost everything we do is new, so we rarely expand upon existing content. And if we did, it's, like that's the thing. Everyone puts out books on spells, and everyone puts out those are very common, and those can be dime a dozen. So we try to focus on things that really are very hard to impossible for other people to do. I mean,
when we do add something like spells,
what's that?
It's not just because we did a book of spells to have spells. It's spells that we feel.
Well, we added spells. We did
filling an important niche, right? So we added elemental spells very strategically so that we could put them into the monster part spell imbued properties to fill in some of the elements that did not have
there's
a lot of spells at those levels, and so that monsters could use spells of those elements at various ranks of spells that didn't really have them.
We filled
absolutely. So, while creating a product that was its own.
Yes, it was about the monsters, and then the monsters in the book cast those spells. The magic item creation of the monster parts use those spells for the PCs. And so it wasn't just a book of spells that added some spells that we thought would be good in the system, but we demonstrated that it filled in holes by creating things that used it.
So that's kind of the brand that we have. So it does make it tricky, but that's also why we did the dragons, because no one was doing dragons, and I couldn't figure out why. And then the Eldamon, although it was a good idea at the time, holy crap, was that hard. I didn't even do it, and it was hard. I mean,
well, it was your number one thing that you wanted, though. I suggested the dragons.
We did dragons,
and we did them. But Steven, you were like, okay, we did these bestiary, we did these dragons, we did the adventure. But the thing I really wanted, and the reason I even got this Battlezoo brand some number of decades ago, and I've been holding on to it until now, is to do something like this. And then you explained what your fundamental design needs were for an Eldamon project. And you were like, this is my big thing.
And is Indigo Isles, did you create that yourself, Steven? Was that all from your dream?
So that was a little bit of both. So what ended up happening is that Patrick Rennie actually came up with the idea of an island. He named it. He actually named Indigo Isles. But then I actually I just came back from Hawaii when that happened. And then from a game development point of view, I was like, okay, this works perfectly. It's an island. Everyone likes islands. Everyone likes Hawaii. Everyone likes tropical. It hits a lot of niches. And because it's an island, you can put it into any setting, anywhere, very easily. That's another key issue.
Right. And because it's an island chain, it can be in your home setting, anywhere. Assuming you didn't call dibs on every sea and piece of the ocean. And then it doesn't even need to be in a place that's similar to the Pacific or Hawaii in our world. In fact, looking at the geography of it and the fact that it's got this indigo sea that's very demarcated, not by continents on every side. If you look at the map, it actually suggests it's more like, I think it's the Sargasso Sea on Earth, where currents are the demarcators of what makes that sea exist.
He came up with the name, but I did the rest. I came up with the other islands. I came up with the concepts of the islands, and then pretty much from there, because if you look, there's so many islands in this world that you've never heard of that are like all over. There's so many. And that's really what island chains are made of. Like islands are not like 5 islands; they're 1,000. You know, there's just there's so many islands in any Pacific island chain, and that's why I'm like, okay, so we could just add to it forever. And there actually is more to the world of Alakar. I actually have a lot more. I even have a whole map, but we never seem to get past the island because the islands ended up being too good because we just keep adding to it, and it never it's like, okay, you want to have a dinosaur island? We have that. You want to have a an island of misfit toys, which we don't have, but we could. You know, it's like whatever you want.
We sort of
do, but
we have one island where one of the
you
sections
could just come up
that,
with anything.
That big like automaton that controlled the tiny little puppets.
That one's
remember it was named like Malindar
yes.
because the person who paid to have that island added wanted to make fun of Derek Melinda, who hates puppets.
Yes.
And so created a giant like automaton that takes care of the puppets that was named after.
Yeah, I have a picture of that too. Yeah, but correct. The point is that also, from a game design point of view, you can add, which you guys did. It's like anyone can add an island. So now, okay, we have an island in there. Like, it is a very easy, very open way to add whatever you want. And the most interesting thing I found about Hawaii is home. One island, the big island, is home to every single biome found on Earth except tundra. That's the only biome you can't find on Hawaii. I knew that. That's crazy. Every biome is on one island. It's kind of amazing. And it's like, so like, it's like, what are they, I think 12 or something, or 11, and they're all there. And
it's perfect for the elements.
Right. Well, that's the thing. When I went to Hawaii, I was kind of blown away by how cool it was and how amazing. And like, unless you go there, it's hard to explain. But when you go, you're like, oh my God, this place is like, it's like a fantasy world. It really is. It's really amazing. And we did a lot of traveling and we went, like, drove around it. And then you're like, wow, this place is like out of prehistoric times. Like, you know, because it's hot as hell. And then you'll be in this weird volcanic area that looks like something from Star Trek. And then you'll be in a desert. And then you'll be in the mountains and it'll be snowing, and this is all in the same day. And then there'll be lava flows, and it's like, you know, with like volcanoes, and then you'll be in a dense rainforest, and this is all within like a few hours of each other. You know, it's like, this is crazy, and it's all here. And so I was like, okay, if you can have that, and this really exists on Earth, then we could put that in a setting, which is great for an adventure, because it's like, okay, now you're in the forest. Okay, well, now you're in a desert. Okay, now you're
in desert. Yeah, absolutely. Like there's a rainforest and like right after that. So
it exists on Earth.
So it's inspired by all these different islands, places like Hawaii, Caribbean islands, Greek islands, like islands all around the world.
All places I've been.
All places that Steven's been,
right? Which is how it,
So they're all sort of blended into, like, it's not supposed to be like this is Hawaii and there's
it's
like
heavily,
literal Hawaiian stuff.
I just
in there.
happened to come from Hawaii, and when it happened,
yeah, he happened to come from Hawaii there, but it includes multiple different kinds of island chains, which make it easy to place it wherever you want to. And if you want like Pirates of the Caribbean style, you got that in there. It's got like some things that can be reminiscent of like the biomes on Pacific Islands. It's got a lot.
And it's fantastic. And it was very easy to put an island in there.
Yeah, like, it just made sense for Alderaan too.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's really easy. And that's the whole point of why we did that. And then we even made the islands, if you played the Jewel of the Indigo, the islands also, this is from World of Warcraft. So World of Warcraft has zones, and then the zones are designed for levels. And interesting, because Paizo does that kind of. Paizo has sections of the world that are based on culture, but levels like 1 through 20 exist within each zone, more or less. But the way I did it the World of Warcraft way, is that no, there's some islands, like if you're level 1, you don't want to go there. Like, it's like you don't even go there unless you're level 10. Like, you will die. Like, you just die if you know, like, some of these islands are not designed for low-level play, and that's
like,
on purpose.
You probably will get signs that something's off there, that if you're smart, you leave before you die. But yes, if you just rush in with your swords ablazing and your fireballs being thrown at anything you see, some of these islands, it'll just be like, no, the threat that lives on this island, if you actually anger it, at best, you will live so that you can, like, shriek out back to society and warn people away so that nobody else comes to bother it because it let you live.
You must always leave one to tell the story.
Right. Well, and that was a design choice because I prefer. It's a little easier that way, and some of the islands are fine too because, like, some of the main islands have 1 to 20. You can go 1 to 20, but then some islands that are small that are sort of very one-dimensional, but we're not one-dimensional, but they only have kind of one story on them. Is like they have a very narrow range, and in fact, that is the Release the Kraken is on one of the islands.
Yeah, Release the Kraken takes you to several different places in the Indigo Isles. It's easy to insert it at the 5th level mark after, like, I think about chapter 5 of the adventure when you're leaving when you're leaving Bluebell and you're about to go on a journey to several other islands. You could just stick it right there. Obviously, it will give you too much XP, so you have to either use milestone or figure something else out if you do that, but it fits right in there. It uses one of the named islands literally from World of Battlezoo Indigo Isles book, and then some new unestablished islands, one of which is kind of unnamed and you just go to briefly, and one of which is a pretty in-depth island where you can find out a lot more about what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
No, you can go.
No, your adventure path is a lot of fun. I've actually ran it for a family out of Texas, and it was a great time. And so I know exactly what you're talking about, the Bluebell and that moment. And I'm excited. When is the Kraken one coming out? You said
July.
Probably July, because that's when the Kraken Ancestry is coming out, but it might not be exactly then because we might.
Ish. You always put the ish.
I don't even know. Do I have all the maps? I don't know if I have all the maps though. That's the problem.
I think you do, because all of the maps that were requested were the ones that already. It only uses the maps that come with the Year of Titans.
Yeah, but I didn't do all the maps yet.
And well, the one that you didn't do, that is the one from Krakens, which needs to be out for July because we're giving it to the Krakens.
I definitely don't have that one. So
yes. And that is the least important map because that's for like that one encounter at the beginning. But you have all of the important maps because they were for January, March, and April maps are going to be included.
Let me see this.
Oh, man.
Let me see this.
That's so cool. Yeah, the world, the Indigo Isles, I've always enjoyed, and it's pretty, but there is dangers there, and it's cool because we're going to showcase it a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to be mostly on our island that I made, but we'll show the map.
Well, we wanted to be careful with the homebrew. It's what makes it great is that you can either, if you're not comfortable with homebrewing, you've got all this to work with, but it also is so easy.
Oh my God, this adventure is so long, Mark. What's going on?
The adventure is long, I know, Steven, but it's because of the fact that you chose an overall like impact and price point that you wanted for the adventure.
It's only 14 pages. That's not that bad.
What?
That's 14. Is that right?
Wait, the adventure is only 14 pages? Are you kidding? It's way more than 14 pages.
No, on the Word document. Is that right? It says 14.
What?
That can't be right.
There is no way.
No. It's 74 pages. Okay.
Yes. There's no
It says page.
way.
Oh, it just updated. It literally said 14. I was like, that can't be right. Okay, 74 pages.
My God, that heart attack.
Correct.
Oh my God, that is
now
long.
it is over 30,000 words. Now that includes
35,000 words.
Yeah. Now that includes the new Eldamon, which has full Eldamon statistics and write up, just like you would have in the Eldamon book.
Yeah,
it includes
well, that's
other new things at the back, but
that's almost as long as a Pathfinder adventure. I think
you're right. A Pathfinder adventure
path volume. If
you don't count the back matter, is usually around 40,000.
There's 42. I thought it was 42
yes, it's
for
usually around that,
Pathfinder.
not counting the back matter,
and
whereas
Starfinder,
ours counting the back matter is 35.
Yeah, I thought Starfinder was like 32 and Pathfinder was 40,000 words.
Yeah, 40 not counting the back matter. That's correct.
Okay.
And ours is 35 counting the back matter, which is also shorter back matter anyway. So it's not even that much shorter than a Pathfinder adventure path volume.
Well, I'll tell you, Jacob, if you wanna sign an NDA and you want to pre-read it and give us your notes, I'll be happy to send it your way.
Actually, honestly, for some of the people
make me giggle on stream.
He's gonna giggle.
Yeah.
No, because I would actually. I'm gonna start.
For
Well,
some of the people who backed Year of Titans, we might be interested in having them.
Yeah, I'm gonna have them look
play
at it,
tested
too.
as well. Even if you're just
Mhm.
watching this and you backed Year of Titans, like we want to find a few groups, like not like an incredible amount to give it a shot because it worked well for like my read through and like mini amount of playtesting some of the mechanics of it, but there's a big difference between Mark plays all the characters and sees if this subsystem works, and four players play and one of them doesn't understand the subsystem and instead of doing it just goes and bashes the wall, and one of them is using their worst skill for some reason and the other one is like perfect for this and is using the best possible lore skill, and it throws in lots of variables as opposed to me being like,
I won't have
okay, the cleric will roll religion and the wizard will roll arcana.
I won't have the time because Jewel. I must have read through Jewel like 5 times at least.
You definitely did, because I kept seeing you go back to a portion that I thought you had already read.
Well, no, the beginning part I reread like 10 times. And
you'd be like, hey, I found something else in this early part. I was like, didn't you read it like 3 times? And you're like, yes, but I'm reading it again.
Well, because what happened is, now I'd find out why no one does what we did. It's because the second part would then have to change the first part, and then the third part would have to change the second part, which had to change the third part. So
but I also really love that we did that and coordinated it correctly.
Correct. Yes.
Makes a huge difference.
Although, if we ever did it again, I actually would update it. I have some updates to Jewel if we ever did a version 2. I actually do have some updates.
I'd be curious. I had a great time with Jewel, but
there's a few areas that I would smooth out and expand
it's working
a little.
Great so far for me.
A little bit. There's a little bit I would change. Very little. It's mostly in the beginning. I would change a little bit, and some of the actually very little. Like there's a couple of encounters that people do constantly say that need a little bit of adjusting, and I would adjust.
Yeah,
those.
Yeah.
Besides, I mean, as a GM, you adjust it on the fly too. I mean,
Jacob's really good at improving on the fly. So
I'm talking about more background, because there's like one guy you
Mm.
encounter, and there's like, what's his background? I'm like, yeah, you're kind of right. Like, I just assumed people knew, and I didn't really put anything.
There was a little bit I added to it, and also just
a little bit
chose some of the ordering of events where you can place them wherever you want, but if you don't do them in the right order, it could lead your party to taking a really nonsensical route through the city where it's like, why did we leave the district we were in, go halfway across, all the way across the city,
it is,
come all the way back, then go there?
We warned them. I warned the GM though in the beginning.
It does warn it.
I warned you.
We never do that in real life.
You kind of want to go in order because it does tell a story, and you can go in any order you want, but it's going to make it more. It's just going to make your life more difficult because the advantage and disadvantage of having a very tight. It's I almost say it's the opposite of Kingmaker. It's like, it's like, look, Kingmaker, you could go in any order you want. This one, you really can't, but it's on purpose because then it tells a very strong, cohesive, well-connected story. But the downside of that is you kind of need to do it in the order we present. And the only time that's a real issue is in the beginning. After the beginning, it takes care of itself. The beginning's
actually kind of sandboxy.
It is a little sandboxy.
It lets you go to a lot of different places. What I actually found...
No, you can do that in any order, but once
I found that was the issue in the beginning is that one of the hooks that they tell you is so obviously a good idea to check that every group I've heard about it, and I've run it a few times, does that, and it turns out that hook basically tells you exactly where you need to go. And so if you don't have a completionist group who's like, but I'd like to hear this other stuff, it might give us more context and clues for later, they could skip it because of the 3 or 4 things, the royal family at the beginning give you a briefing about what you're looking for, and it's a map. I'm just going to say that it's not a spoiler. It's literally the first thing in the adventure.
I like all the characters. Keep going.
They give you like 4 or 5 leads, and the one that every group I've seen wants to do, and groups I've heard online almost always do, just immediately then in that one tells you where to find the map, like automatically, pretty much. And so one of my groups was like, okay, we know where it is, but let's go check this other stuff because we don't know all the background, and there might be like
it doesn't affect it. It doesn't change that much. Like even if you skip
but I could see you having a group, and I've seen some people say it online, who did then find the map and then chose not to go to those 4 other locations because they're like, well, now we have it.
It's just weird.
So let's just move on.
People do sometimes feel like, oh, but you guys are so railroady. I hear that all the time. I'm like, do you not play adventure? Like that's the
They
whole.
must
Like,
not play.
that's
Season
the
of
point.
Ghosts is like a
That
railroad.
one is
I mean,
very railroady. Like I'm like, look, I don't call it a railroad, call it a roller coaster, because I'm like, dude,
yes.
that's the point. Like if you want open-ended world and do your own, or
Build
play
your own.
Kingmaker, because
Correct.
like if you read any adventure path, and I mean any, doesn't
Yeah.
matter, mine, Paizo's, WoTC's, they're all paths. It's literally in the name. I'm like, dude,
It's called Adventure Path.
It's adventure path. You're gonna go on a path, and it's gonna bring you on a linear adventure.
That's very
And
fair.
if you don't want that, then don't play that. Seriously, like
Even some
Well, I want-
adventures are just like a location-based text
Yeah,
prompt.
Correct.
some.
I mean, what I tell players right off the bat is, hey, that we are on this adventure path, but if you choose that you want to rent a ship and go on pirates, we will homebrew it, and that's how it's going to be. But you know that you've signed up for this adventure path, and so
Right.
and obviously they have their different routes to get to different spots, sure. But overall, it's a story that you're working your way through.
Yeah, and also that's what we do. Like my group, this is all we play. Like we, in fact, temporarily went back to play one and dones, and after, I mean, it was society basically, and we
Yes.
played, a couple levels, and then we were like, you know what? We all looked and we're like, you know what? I don't really like this. And they're like, yeah, I don't like it either. It's like, let's just go back to adventure paths, and we did, because it was just not enough connective tissue. It wasn't a big story. Like we want
Correct.
big, epic, massive, like life-changing, world-ending. You asked before if we ever played level 20. Like we're up to level 20, and
Yeah, I know you are.
yeah,
I was
I'm up
asking
to
Laura. I knew you
right.
are. Yeah,
and
yeah.
like, and they liked it because their things are coming, and they sit there. If you watch us live play, like Seth will go on these diatribes for 10 minutes saying, oh, when we did this, connected to
Yes.
this, to this,
Oh.
and he just sits there like going about it, and
It's
they're
his
all talking about
conspiracy
it. I'm like,
board.
Yes.
right, and I'm like, good,
But as
that's
a-
the point. That's why
As
you
a
do
GM,
that.
when they start doing that, that is such a rewarding feeling.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
I
Yeah.
mean, we're having it right now in the specifically. We finished up the Bloodlords, but I'm nearing the end of the season of Ghosts, and I'm not going to reveal anything because it is a mystery. But we've gotten to that point, and all of a sudden it was like, boom, 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 and watching their minds just like it's beautiful.
It's when the lights go off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do this murder mystery one shot thing. When I see the light bulbs go off,
such
it's
a
like,
good feeling.
yes,
Yeah.
you're there
So
with me.
I would be honored to sign the NDA and read through it. So
Okay.
send it my way.
Yeah, and you run so many adventures. It
Well,
would be
that's-
great to
yeah,
have your
why
take
we-
on it.
you
We
guys
want to
look
we
at
want
it.
to get a few people to kick the tires on it that aren't just me and the author and Steven.
Well, also what I was going to say is I do not have the
The author is
time
Linda.
or the energy to read through this one 20 times like I did. Like
Yes.
there's also is a smaller adventure. I mean, this is a very, it's not very small, but it's a
It's
one.
about one level worth of
Right,
content.
it's one level, but it's all self-contained as opposed to 11 levels. So, and it's pretty
I
straightforward.
like those. Those are
Pretty
nice. Like a
straightforward.
one level adventure.
Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward adventure. I mean, it goes to funny and silly things. It's
It's got a lot
very
of
silly.
interesting stuff. It ties into the meta storyline of the Year of Titans. I'm only now
Oh.
saying things that we have already revealed when
Correct.
we in the Kickstarter page itself, when we gave it as an extra free incentive for the Kickstarter folks. You can meet Itheria Nix, the author of the Year of Monsters, Year of Legends, and Year of Titans, like those little essays at the
Mhm.
beginning of each one. She is in here also dealing with the situation that you
Oh,
guys are
God.
going to find out about, and
Love
she
it.
could potentially help you depending on what you do. You have to release a Kraken. It is we've mentioned in the summary, basically a Kraken merchant is wrongfully accused of a problem that's going on somewhere, and so you need to find evidence and help release the Kraken, and then after that hopefully help solve the actual problem.
And
that
what was your
not
name?
caused
The
by
funny
Kraken.
thing is, you came up with the title, and I'm like, dude, that is not the title. you had a different title.
I
For
had a
it.
different title that was more about like the actual problem, and you were just like, release the Kraken is too good of a title.
Oh, I was like, well,
we
I
said it
came
was
up with the
fifth
title
level, though.
first.
It can't be like an actual Kraken. He's like, but we have the ancestry. We could just be one of the like the Kraken can be an NPC.
Well, I
you
went-
have to
it-
release from
That
jail.
was the whole thing. I came up with the name.
Yeah, you came up with that idea, and that
And
was
then I went,
so good.
Release the
That was
Kraken,
so
and then I'm
good.
like, because you were like, well, no, I figured out because I said release the Kraken.
No, you completely
And then
figured
you
out that
wrote
it was
and
someone in
started
jail.
on this diatribe of like, that's too high level. They're gonna have to go and like release a 15th level Kraken. We don't want to do a high level adventure. I'm like, Mark, stop. No, it's a 5th level PC, and he's like, "Oh, okay, we could do that."
Once Steven explained it was being released from jail, that was just perfect. I thought it was like the actual release of the Kraken, so the sea monster
Right.
Kraken.
He thought it was like a
comes out,
20
you fight
level
it.
Kraken, and we
You
was going to be
fight it
this
underwater,
super
and I was
high
like, what are
level
we doing? What
underwater
are we
adventure. I'm
doing?
like, dude, no.
No one
Like,
wants to see that.
No.
That's awesome.
And you kept writing. I'm like, stop writing. You're yelling at me. I'm like, dude, relax. It's not gonna be that. It's not
Okay,
gonna be.
so Mind Blown in chat is about to have their
Yes.
mind blown.
Yeah.
They asked if the next Eldamon book will have more lore or some kind of a Mewtwo legendary creature, or Team Missile Evil Trainers. And so I'm glad to tell you, Mind Blown, that
Team Missile.
of the Eldamon projects that we're planning on, the one that's the second one, aka the one that would come next, it's sort of a test bed for does Eldamon have legs to get more expansions, would exactly have, other than the Team Missile Evil Trainers, all of the things that you said there. More lore is one of the things we want to put in there, specifically for the existing elements, and legendary Eldamon. Your Mewtwo, your Articuno, your Zapdos, your Moltres, your Suicune, your NK, your Raikou, Ho-Oh, Lugia, all of those.
Yeah,
Plus the ones that are beyond the generations that I memorized all of them.
And then you make Team Missile, and you got it all.
Yeah, so there you go.
Mind Blown makes Team Missile. You mean?
Mind Blown makes Team Missile.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll follow that.
Team Missile blasting off at the speed of the light element.
Ah, there it is.
The problem with Eldamon, from a physical point of view, we'll tell you secrets of the trade, is that Mark has to write it, probably. I don't know if there's anyone else who can write it.
The second book
the second
be
book
a
has to be
collab
done.
because we want there to be a significant lore element.
True,
and
the
because
lore can
I
be
have
written.
created enough of a design
That's
guide
true. The lore can be
for
written by
the
someone else.
Eldamon themselves that we were able to at least have Linda write the initial write-up for the Eldamon. So if we make new Eldamon or we make new lore, somebody else can do
Yes.
it. So I do intend for the second book to be a collab. I will write the new
good.
powers and the Eldamon items.
Yeah, that's a big issue.
Because I kind of have to do those, but that's only a small percentage of what's in there.
Yeah.
Whereas Eldamon book 3, and that's part of the reason it's book 3, is that not only do I
I'm talking about
definitely
book
have to
3.
write those classes and the new elements 100%,
It's really
but they're
bullshit.
very challenging, and we will need to get a big playtest. Like the Kraken, we want a small playtest. For Dragon books, we get a small playtest. But for Eldamon, we had a playtest that was so absurd in the number of
Like
different
100
rounds of
people.
encounters people ran. I was so impressed and happy with how dedicated those folks were. We had I think low numbers of thousands, or maybe high numbers of hundreds, not sure, of different encounters that people were running. Even some individual people ran triple digits of things with Eldamon, testing different element combinations, testing different Eldamon and elemental avatars. We iterated, I increased the damage on it. The damage you see now, some people are like, that's actually a lot. It used to be a little bit lower, and people then found out it just couldn't keep up. It was just like, well, yeah, the psychic is just better than the Eldamon person, and they have the versatility of all these utility things.
Yep.
And so we listened, we iterated. They kept going and kept testing it with the iteration. It was a big playtest. It took them a lot of time. It took me a lot of time. And so that's one of the reasons why book 3 is book 3 and not book 2.
Yes.
Because if we're going to do that, we need to know that the audience is there and ready to buy more Eldamon books.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll see.
Perfect.
Because there's also several secret projects that no one even knows about. So
That's true. I do know about them, I think.
He's dropping more secrets. What is
That's
this?
It's like listening on
No,
the
you know
artificers in there.
in fact, one of the secret projects, I was just talking to the guy today.
Oh,
He's
is
not
it the
going to be.
super-
He's not going to be. Actually, sorry. There's 3 secret projects.
Okay, but is it the super secret project?
Yeah. Well, there's a super secret, and that one you know about. And I was
Yes.
talking to him today, and he's not going to be at PAX East. And then there's the other 2. Well,
We'll call them the super future secret project. That's going to be
my
multiple
gosh.
years in the future, and
No,
maybe
that
the
one-
secretest
that
of them
one-
all.
That one, yeah. That one we're gonna see him on Wednesday, but that one is
that's
the super
future
duper
secret project.
crazy.
It's probably the most exciting of all of them
Secret. Yeah,
if it
that one
happens, but it won't be for years.
That
Then
one's
there's
not
the
for
super
years.
secret project that probably might be able to be this year, and I think is going to blow some people's minds.
That'll be this year.
Yeah, and that's
Oh
probably
my
going to blow
gosh.
some people's minds. And then there's just the regular secret
Jonesing.
projects, which are already awesome,
There's
but
one for
not
next-
as secret as the super
There's
secret
one for this year, one for next year, and then one for 3
years or ish.
Yeah, Great Mustache is correct. I am dying with all the secret talk because I love all you guys' project. I've always been
if
a
we do
huge
that
supporter,
super
so.
one in 3 years, well,
Even I can't believe who Steven has on some of the super secret and the super future secret projects.
Let him
And I
go.
don't think you guys will be able to believe that.
people will. They won't believe it. I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at the
Oh
level
my
of
gosh.
who we're talking to is it's like WoTC level stuff, so it's really high level. So
So excited.
yeah, but I
I'm
know a
excited
lot
for
of
the
people.
future of Battlezoo.
Yeah, I mean, well, we're in a weird spot because we're not quite the size of like Cobalt and even Hit Point in those, but if you look at it, they don't put out that many books. Like Hit
You
Point
guys are
is got-
cranking.
right. We crank. Like I try to
Yeah.
put out as much as Paizo. I mean, Paizo, because I look at Paizo and Paizo. Oh boy, talk
Okay.
about, and especially
Steven,
back
we don't
in.
put out even close to
I don't
as
even
much
put
as
out close to
Paizo.
what Paizo does, and Paizo.
Paizo also has like 60
They also have
or
100,
70
yeah, they have 100
editorial
full-time
staff.
people.
They
Right.
have over 100 total, but
Right. Yeah, they have 100 full time, but that's the 100 people working at all times. So they can put out and crank. But back in Pathfinder First Edition, they really put out a lot. But you can't do what they did because they put out where those.
well, they put out 32
They
page
put out these books, and these books just you
player
can't.
companions.
Yeah, the player companion 32 page books.
Yes.
You can't
Yep.
do them.
Well,
These
instead
are
of putting out 12 of those, they put out Lost Omens
They put
books
out
at a
4
slower
year.
rate.
4-year.
But it's still, they didn't cut down on the pages, really.
No.
Because 12 32-page books is actually fewer pages. I mean, they did have the 64-page campaign.
Yeah,
setting,
they
so
do.
it's-
But you know what?
It is a little bit fewer pages to do the Lost Omens, but it's not that much fewer. It's just in fewer books, which is, if Steven knows this, so I'm not telling this for his benefit, but for all of you viewers who aren't in the RPG industry, let me just tell you, the 12 32-page books and 6 64-page books, even though, like, when you add up the number of pages and compare it to 4 224-page books, it was more in the smaller books, but the amount of work and time you save is much more than by dividing the pages and being like, well, this is, I don't know, 70% of the page. I didn't do the math. You save tons more because the organizational and logistical efforts of making a book have a certain sunk cost, even if that book is 32 pages.
Yep.
And so putting it all together in one book is much better in terms of your time than doing it in a bunch of tiny books.
Yeah. Makes sense. Just keep cranking that content out. That's all I ask.
Yeah. I'm
We're
trying
not
do
going to
more.
stop until Steven decides that we can't do it.
Awesome. And so what right now people can sign up for your Shadow Dark stuff, right? They can do the
Yes.
$1.
Yeah,
It's
they
a
do the
$1 sort
$1.
of pre-order that will get them a special set of Shadow Dark dice for free when they back an appropriate.
Those free dice got very expensive suddenly because
They're expensive for Steven, not for you.
yeah, they're
but,
expensive for me.
because they're now on a ginormous tariff, but he's still giving them free. He's honoring that, and so you can get it free with your physical purchase from the Kickstarter. People often ask, well, I did it, I pre-ordered for $1, so I'm thinking of not backing it, or backing the $1 build your own tier, then not building anything. I still got my dice, right? It's like, no, it says that it's free with backing an actual physical thing that we can ship it with to you.
So if this does well with the Shadow Dark, is Shadow Dark going to be on the list of everything you do?
Yeah, it'll
Okay.
start.
We are very interested in moving onward with Shadow Dark to further places if the Shadow Dark community really
Well,
embraces us and wants to see us do that. Like, there are things we're not doing here, like the ancestries, right? That would be
Yep.
great to do in Shadow Dark. There's many more options for Shadow Dark that would fit very well with like the Shadow Dark theme. And you know what? Like Eldamon maybe wouldn't as much.
Correct.
They're very
You can do
colorful. They're
Elfmon,
not.
but it would be like Death L. It would be
Yeah,
like
they're not as on brand, but that's okay because that's not the only thing we've done. There's a
no,
Right.
no.
right, like the dragons. A lot of the
Dragons
dragons
will work
would
really well.
fit in Shadow Dark. You know, maybe some of our dragons are a little more whimsical, but a lot of our dragons are pretty dangerous. And
I guess that's what I was asking. Like it is, if this goes well, there's a future with releasing 5e, Pathfinder Second Edition, and Shadow Dark. That's beautiful.
I'd love to see it if the Shadow Dark community embraces us and wants to see it from us.
Yeah. I mean, the Shadow Dark stuff we're doing, I think it's gonna. We'll see. I mean, it is a bit of a risk, but it's 3 books. It's going to be probably like 800-900 pages of content. It's exactly the same size, same shape. Kelsey and I actually use the same printer. Actually,
wow.
Well, I'm the one who got her to there. I'm the one who told her about
That
it.
makes sense. Yeah.
That
yeah.
makes
So
sense.
we use the
But
same printer, so everything's very identical. It's like our books will literally be the same as hers in every way, shape, and form. So I know people are.
Perfect.
Well, that's the thing. The books I use are the exact same as the Pathfinder and Paizo and WoTC books. Originally, I used the same printer as WoTC. We actually use a different printer, but they're exactly the same. Like once you know how to
The
print it,
companies
it's
are like related to each other. Or
they're
something
related
like
to each
that.
other, but it doesn't matter because as long as you're using the same materials, it's impossible to tell. And Paizo actually has used my printer sometimes on over when they go back and
Yeah.
forth. But then for the Shadow Dark books, she's literally using my printer. So we are using everything identical. So
Yeah.
people
That's
worry about
perfect.
that.
And there's some bidirectionality potential. Shadow Dark books are going to have these little, 1-page Shadow Dark adventures. And yes, it's true that you can fit them in a single page because Shadow Dark is kind of got that underspecified fruitful void kind of aesthetic where you don't say very much. And yes, it maybe wouldn't be able to fit exactly in that form factor in 5e or Pathfinder, but if people are really loving those dungeons, it's going to be based on monsters that are like from our bestiaries mostly.
Oh,
Well, we're
And
doing
so
15.
therefore, since those exist in the other systems, I could see a potential to go back convert from Shadow Dark, which they were initially created into, to just give you these tiny mini dungeons for
right, to reverse it. We
the
can go
other-
from the Shadow Dark mini dungeons
Yeah,
to like
we could do
yeah.
those
like
in
a
5e
mini-
and Pathfinder.
Well,
They
people
wouldn't be
do
one
those-
page front and back at that point
People
because you
do
need to write a little bit more. But
2-page dungeons for D&D. Those are very popular.
very
Yeah.
popular. Yeah.
yeah,
They're actually way more popular from my experience. Those kind of things are very popular with the 5th edition, not so much with the Pathfinder people.
No.
That's my experience, at least. So
Well, I think the
Well,
problem is
I think it's just
because-
nobody in Pathfinder is doing that. That is one of the brands that Pathfinder
Yes.
people like know already and
I think-
and trust.
I think that, and actually, to be honest, they have Society, and there's so much. I mean, literally, they come out with 24 adventures a year.
Yes,
Like, there's
Society
so
have
much
wonderful one-shot adventures.
right. There's so much stuff for Society that it's
Yes.
a weird slot to put you in because it's like, well, we already have Society. Why would
Correct.
I buy an even shorter?
Well, here's
adventure?
my pitch though for that, which is Society is still like we said. Yeah, this is the 35,000 pages, including the back matter, maybe or not pages. Holy crap, 35,000 words. 35,000 words for Release the Kraken, including the back matter. Maybe 30,000 of that are the adventure. Right, a Society adventure can be 10 to 15,000 words.
yes,
So
I
there's a
ran
big
society
difference.
games. They're
They can be wordy. They have a lot to do, even though they're only about a third of a level's worth of encounters. So there's a difference between that and being like, yeah, you could prep and run it. They're rich with lore. They have great opportunities to like, get into the world, and I like them a lot. I
Yes.
was a 5-star GM in Pathfinder Society back in
Awesome.
Pathfinder First Edition. Okay, that means I ran over 150 games plus some other hoops I had to jump through for specials and qualifications.
yeah.
That being said, there's something to be said about having an adventure that, even if it's just not 1 page front and back, maybe it's 2 pages front and back, that you can just look at and run, and that you don't have to prep 15,000 words for because it's just a simple dungeon that people can go into. So it is a kind of a different like proposition.
Yes. Yeah, because you could sit down at a group of people and be like, hey, let's try this really simple instead of diving into all the lore and stuff in the region.
When you found we've talked about it. Pathfinder folks seem to be more interested in a little bit longer.
Yeah,
Going
they
a
seem to
couple
like
levels.
they want more levels.
It's probably because a lot of normies will get into D&D. They're going to do a lot more of the quick one-shots,
Yeah.
short things. Slightly anecdotal from our experience, but that's what we've seen a lot of the times.
For sure. But yeah.
Pathfinder people have it the long haul.
Yeah, they do.
They're
They like
into it.
those long. They like
They
the long
do.
games. That's my experience because I've tried running a lot of Pathfinder one shots. They don't fill nearly as much as my 5th edition one shots do.
Right.
And then usually when I get at the end of the Pathfinder ones, hey, can we stay on and play an adventure path? For the 5th edition ones are like, yeah, we're out. We're done.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
What about Shadow Dark?
I have not ran it as a paid game yet.
Yeah.
I've only ran it for a couple local groups. I will be actually running it in May at the local library, which is paid. So I'm pretty excited about that.
We
Trying to spread the
talked
name.
about doing a little bit a Shadow Dark
We did.
campaign on the channel, so maybe
did.
we wait
I think
for the
we-
Battlezoo stuff to come.
We should wait for the Battlezoo stuff.
and then we do that.
Yeah, use their stuff for sure.
It's got such a great aesthetic too,
It
you
is.
know, like you guys were talking about. So I think it would make a fun show.
Well, we'll have
And deadly.
We'll also have pretty cool like the classes. Not that I'm dissing class. I mean, right now they're the very basic classes, which you need. Like,
Right.
You need the thief, the mage.
I think there's
user.
something beautiful about the sort of elegant way that those classes have a
Oh,
small impact in the number of mechanics that they have. You roll them,
Right.
and you can't really
You always have to start
pre-plan
with
your
those.
build.
Yeah, you have to start with the basics. But we're doing the weird classes, so
Ours are more like the expansion classes that from like the Kelsey put out later that are weirder
Yeah.
and have more options and are less basic. In fact, I saw because Michael showed us that there was like one that they did later that even has a tentacle-ish thing, like our aberrant soul. I was like, oh, they can be buddies.
Tentacle buddies.
Tentacle buddies.
yeah. So that's the one thing is that we definitely will try to put our brand on it, and plus all the monsters are being transferred to Shadow.
The monsters are the big thing. You guys got some pretty awesome monsters.
Mhm.
I mean, even the blood mouse.
I know.
Blood Mouse will be right at home. in
Yeah, I
Shadow
think
Dark.
that
Yeah.
It will be right at home with Shadow Dark.
it
Oh.
totally would be like it would be friends with the Sting Bat for sure.
Yeah,
I think Steven previewed a Shadow Dark Blood Mouse in one of the newsletters.
well, it'll be a blood mouse riding a sting bat.
There you go.
I could ask Kelsey
Adorable.
That's
to let me
perfect.
do that.
That's
Probably
perfect.
would. Well, it's actually she has. I can do the license. I can do that if she lets you use all that. So
yeah, you
That's
could
awesome.
include Sting Bat.
That's
I mean, in fact, like our Shadow Dark adventures are heavily focused on our own monsters, but at least from what I've seen, like some of our sample ones that we're doing aren't entirely that,
no, we
right?
put
Like,
some of their stuff in. Yeah, we put.
like,
It's not all
and
ours.
Linda has been working
Mhm.
on a second one. She gave one to you, Steven, that was
Right.
I think almost entirely, but it
doesn't
had
have to
the
be.
random encounter had I think like a few
Well,
monsters
she
from the
has a
Shadow
lot
Dark
of
monsters.
monsters. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we don't even have
Most
quite
of Kelsey's
enough.
monsters are also like ones that are shared and are out there, and most of the ones we've used are too, as opposed to Stingbat that is like more.
Well, the
this
thing
is a
is,
Shadow Dark monster.
she has the
Mm,
monsters
like
in
a
her.
skeleton or a harpy,
But
or
she has the
something that's
monsters
like
in
a-
her core rules, so it also makes
Yes.
it easier to do it. So because you don't need a separate book to get her monsters.
That's
Correct.
right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
It's so awesome.
but
Well, circle back around. You can do Pokemon in D&D 5th edition.
yes,
Using
I
Alpha
actually
Month.
do have to go because A, it's been 2 hours, and B, I'm going to the Met game tonight, Mark. So I gotta go.
Oh,
They,
enjoy the game, Steven.
have fun.
I hope they do well for your sake. But I actually
Dude,
don't care.
They're the
other
best
than
team
that.
in baseball by a mile. It's not even close. They're 21-9, and they've won 13 of their last. They're 13-1 at home or something insane. Like
There you go.
They're
But have
fantastic.
they had like an almost record breaking game? Like I heard that
Yeah.
the Orioles had an almost record breaking game where they had so many runs scored against them.
yeah, the Mets just they scored.
Against them.
Yes, against them. It was record
No,
breaking.
they scored 20. The Mets just scored 25 runs. No, sorry, 27 runs in their last 2 games.
Oh, that's awesome.
Sheesh.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
they're pretty good. Yeah, they had to get 19. What they won? I don't remember. It was like 19-5. They won the other day, and then yesterday they won 8-3.
They're on fire.
So yeah, and that's against a good team. So I was saying they just beat the living snot out of them. So I get to go watch them again tonight. I think it's on my 5th game this year. This
There
is the
we go.
year.
Oh,
I got
awesome.
a lot of games. So.
There we go. It was a 24-2. That was April 21st against the Orioles.
Yeah.
We all have to have our place in this world.
Well,
Because some of my family members are fans of like the Baltimore teams, and so I get to hear about it when the Baltimore teams are doing. I hear from Steven when the Mets are doing well, and I hear from my family when the Baltimore teams are doing terribly.
They're doing really
well, but they almost
They're doing
never
real.
doing
Their
well,
pitching is
so-
atrocious right now, and no one knows why. Baltimore's supposed to be good, and they're not that good, and no one.
When
knows
I
why.
heard that Baltimore lost 24-2, I said, "Hold on, I have two questions. One, I thought football wasn't in season right now, and two, did they really only score a safety?" And they're like, "No, it was baseball." I was like, "What?" That was a baseball
Yeah,
score?
nerds.
Well,
That's
keep
awesome.
in mind, once you're losing, you put in a position player to pitch, and that's why the score
Well,
gets
I
insane.
heard that they had a position
Yeah, they
player
did.
the whole time because all of their regular
Yes.
pitchers were injured
Yes.
or something like that.
Yes, that's the problem. Their pitching is terrible, and they didn't know what to do, and they have their backup pitchers are atrocious. So, but this happens
you
to
go.
every team. Every team has to deal with this. They literally said they didn't expect this to happen, and they're getting yelled at because they're like, "How can you not expect this to happen? This is baseball."
It's
Oh,
the chess
no.
match of baseball. That's what it is. There's
Well,
so much going.
you're always
There's so
going to
much
have
more
injuries.
going on than not what's on the field. You know.
Well, there's always injuries, and they literally have quotes saying we didn't expect injuries, and everyone's like, "What do you mean?"
What?
You
do
have to
okay.
plan for injuries. I know that, and I don't know anything about baseball.
Well, they're getting ripped on that one big time. So.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, enjoy the Mets game, Steven. And thanks for being on with us and telling us more about your Alderman
where's
campaign.
your stuff?
I cannot wait.
When's your game and how many and what?
For Eldamon, tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern is session 1. We got 4 players, a guest, History Eraser. He was in the chat. He comes over from the Moonskull channel. And then the rest of it is all of us. Jacob is running it. And we will have Classic Creature in there, Indigo Isles, Eldamon, Monster Parts.
Yep.
Anything else from Battlezoo?
I'm sure.
There's probably more in there.
Yeah.
And we'll be playing it in Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we stream for about 2 hours, and the chat has direct influence on the story through Streamlabs donations and super chats. We make a whole big stink about it, so it's a lot of fun.
Nice. And just this will be at 9 p.m. tomorrow Eastern.
Yes.
Eastern, yep.
And that assumes that their minds survive and their ears survive listening to the horrible Elder Rap that they said that they're going to go.
Oh yeah. No, we're going. I am.
Which,
We're
to
gonna
be
play
fair,
that.
the description says that like your mind may be warped by how bad it is, and you may never be the same again.
Well, that's what we're here for.
That's right.
We even put together a little ditty, Eldamon ditty, for our campaign and our intro video. So I'm looking forward to this rap
There you
now. Maybe
go.
we should put it at the end of the stream.
We should put that instrument.
Then all your
Just-
viewers will.
It'll be gone.
Well, ours is not as good as your animation, and
Yeah, well, all we do is we have it glowing and it shows each one because it is a rap where we name
Yes.
all of the Eldamon,
well,
right?
yeah,
Oh,
ours is
I'm-
very basic compared to yours.
Come
I'm
on,
sure
the 90s
AI,
Pokemon rap is great.
yeah, AI probably could have done this in 5
Zygento
minutes.
Mercia, Arathazap, and that's the end of the Elder Rap.
Yes,
Oh boy.
Yes.
It's as bad
yes.
as that.
yes.
Not fair. Yeah,
that's
we
pretty
used
bad.
a little AI generation, but then Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects, all that good stuff for ours.
Yeah, no, yours is crazy. Well, when I saw the lion roar, I was like, that was too much. I'm gonna have to ask you
I
to
wasn't-
animate some more of those. I was like, that was crazy. I was like, okay, the
No,
lion
and in
roaring.
fairness, that was generative, but I've been learning how to talk to it because it's just me and then Jake, so we're just goofing around.
Well, I don't know. The thing with animation is a whole other level because
Yeah, for sure.
when it comes to generative AI, I hate to break it to, all animation is kind of generative.
Yeah, I mean, all animation for a long time, computer animation has had assistive tools.
right.
that
Yeah,
adhere
It's
to
all
it.
it's all generative.
Photoshop, it's
I
all
mean,
having it in
like
there.
people,
Yeah,
it's
there's
that's
always
what
been some element of that even before they had big data
Yeah.
and crunched other artists' stuff into
Well-
there that were just like that just used tools that would assist you.
Very
right?
long-
It wasn't just the artist doing it with like a digital paintbrush.
No, right.
one
Well, what I-
stroke
Right,
at a
frame
time.
by frame.
I used to teach animation, and that's one of the things I taught, and since
Mhm.
literally the 90s, and the between frames, the tweening. I mean, so you literally, anyone who's in video knows this. You have keyframes, and those are the keyframes, and then you have tween frames in between frames, and literally the programs will do the in betweening. Like you
Mhm.
you don't have to do the in-betweening. It figures that stuff out. And now it's just like, AI driven. It's very, very sophisticated, but that's been around for 30 years. Like this is not new. It's just way better, and it does a lot more.
Yeah, and faster and more.
Yeah,
Yep.
it just does more, but
It still needs a lot of cleanup.
Yeah, it needs cleanup, and it's not perfect, but you don't do every frame. Like those days
Yep.
are long gone. Like that since computers came around, every frame has not existed. Pretty much.
Like, it was in the 90s. There was tweening.
Yeah,
Like it's been
That's what I
around for a
learned
long
about it.
time.
yeah, it's
I
been
mean,
there.
they made us do it in film school. I had to do
Yeah.
it frame by frame just to know.
Yeah, I mean it. I forgot which. I think it was Oh man, it was like Home on the Range. I think that's the last animated movie with Roseanne Barr, but you've never heard of it. It's a Disney movie. No one's ever heard of it. That was the last fully hand-drawn movie, and after that, they've all been computer assisted or computer. And the main reason is because they only have to do the keyframes, and then they can have the computer do the rest, and it's way faster. And they can also that's why the movies look better because they don't have to spend. If they only have 100,000 hours to work on a movie, they can either work 100,000 hours on every single frame, or they can work 100,000 hours on 10% of the movie and have the computers do the other 90%, which is what they do. And that's how it works. So, anyhow.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for having us on,
Yeah,
guys. I
for
appreciate
Thanks
real.
for
This
being
is
here.
absolute honor. Shout out to the chat too. You guys are awesome.
it. Send that NDA over, and I'll happily pick through it.
Excellent.
Wow.
And we'll be glad to hear what you have to say.
Awesome, guys. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thanks for watching us and learning more about Pokemon in your D&D. Until next time, if you want to battle the zoo with Eldamon, you have to roll for combat. Take care, everybody. See you next time. But she's not next week because we'll be at PAX.
That's right.